Hello, and welcome to episode 53 of Missed Mando, Ontario's source for the latest in the disc golf world. I'm your host, Robbie Holden, joined, as always, by my friends and co-hosts, Sean Galbraith and Galen Naidu-Harris. Shawnee G, let's throw it over to you first. How you doing, my friend? What you been up to since our last episode? Are you surviving this winter?
Doing great, Robbie. Thanks for asking. I am doing absolutely nothing. I have done absolutely nothing, and I'm looking forward to continuing this plan of doing absolutely nothing. I went out and played 3 holes at the beaches, and it was basically mid shin deep or so, and my shins are very long. And so that was just way too deep. We're going to hear about what happened at Scarlett, I'm sure, at some point tonight. But no, I'm not doing anything. I have become very much a fair weather golfer, it seems, and I'm kind of okay with that. Galen, how about you? What have you been up to?
I respect that, Sean. It's probably the smart move. I was one of those insane people, as you know, who was out at Scarlett Woods this past weekend for the Scarlett Woods Open. We'll save, obviously, our main recap of the real players for later, but had a lot of fun playing the Red Division. The course was playing insane. Snow up to just about my knees in some places. Frosty out there, like negative 10 plus. Definitely closer to negative 15. We started probably, under negative 10, as in less below 0 than negative 10 by the time we were done. But yeah, frosty day out there. And to cap it all off, I don't know if I told you guys about this or not. So I showed up early with James Atkinson. Early, I know, very strange for me. And we decided we were going to play hole 1 and hole 18 because I'd never played Scarlett Woods. Like, at least play a few holes with me. We'll get a couple practice putts. So we played hole 1, and I was like, wow, this is really long and really hard. Okay, this should be interesting as a day. And then we are cutting across from hole 1 to hole 18. And James goes first. He tests. There's like a little bit of ice, I guess, in a ditch. Tests it. No issues, no nothing. I'm listening. There's no cracks. He walks across, and he's not like a big guy, but I'm a very small guy. So he's probably got 40, 50 pounds on me. He goes across. No issues, no problem. First step, I am ankle deep, maybe knee deep in frigid water.
No.
And I'm just like, oh no. It's at this point, like I said, it's at least negative 15, maybe negative 20. So I hike all the way back to my car from, sort of the end of hole 1, cutting across to 18 for those who know it, like, not that far, a couple hundred meters. By the time I get to the car, the entire outside of my boots are frozen. The laces are frozen solid. The boots are covered in a layer of ice. And I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? This is insane. But the day...
You walked the length of a par 5.
Yeah.
Not a short walk.
Like covered in ice and water and snow boots. I was seriously reconsidering all of my life decisions by the time I got back to the car. But I was smart. I packed 5 pairs of socks. I only had to borrow 1 from James, who was very kind to lend me an extra pair. I was like, I got 2 for the first round, 2 for the second round, 1 for the drive home. So ready. Burned 2 pairs off the top. But the golf was good. I finished in second in the Red Division, averaged 931 golf, which is about 35 points above my rating. So I was very happy. Got to play with 2 awesome guys, Chris Price and David Reyes. I hope I'm getting his last name right, remembering it right. Just had an absolutely wicked time. And the second round, we added Mike Sorgel, who I desperately tried to chase down, but he just kept holding me off. I took 1 stroke from him. I had to take 2 total if I was going to time. I took 1 in the first few holes, and then just the next, 16 holes, which is dead even. Like, I'd have an opportunity and I'd miss a putt. He'd have a chance and he'd hit a we kept trading blows and stayed exactly 1 stroke apart for 15 or 16 of the holes that round. And so major kudos to Mike for taking down a sweet win. Only other thing other than that, great day at Scarlett Woods, and thanks to Ezra Hauser for a great tournament, is I've re-upped with Gateway. So I'm really excited that I'm with Gateway again for another year. I've got a whole bunch of new discs that are sitting in a box at home because I don't trust myself not to lose them unless I ribbon them up. And ripping takes time, and time takes not having an infant child. So we're going to wait for the spring and try a lot of those, or at least until the snow melts, and try a lot of those out. But yeah, super jacked up about my two little disc golf things the last few weeks, and to have survived the frigid cold, Robbie, how about you? How you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. I was gonna cut in while you were talking, but I didn't want to. So I got two quick little anecdotes from Galen talking about Scarlett Woods. One that he was saying something about being at waist deep snow when Sean earlier was mentioning shin deep snow. Just a little example of the height discrepancy, and then also Galen saying that James Atkinson has about 40 to 50 pounds on him. And I've got probably 40 to 50 pounds on James Atkinson. So all this to say is that Galen is a itty bitty man, in size only. He's very large in heart, and personality, and sometimes annoyance, but we live with it. But I have been doing absolutely nothing. I haven't thrown a disc in a while. I haven't touched a disc in forever, let alone even thrown it. I did get out this past weekend and played some bowling. Went out for a bowling night with my fam jam, and this is like 4 days ago, and still my left booty cheek is very sore. Just all that bracing on the left leg. I haven't bowled in forever. And I guess just a motion that my body isn't used to. And I didn't notice it at the time, but I woke up the next day and was like, whoa, my left glute is like really tender right now. And that's taken a while to go away. So that's about it. I did before we get into any more disc golf. I know Shawnee G, like me, you are a TV fan. You like to dive into some TV shows. Galen, I'm not quite sure about you. Obviously, being a fairly new dad, I'm sure that the extra time for stuff like that probably doesn't come around as often. I see you coming off mute there. You got something?
Yeah, no, just I do love my TV watching. I have less time for it now, as you've anticipated. I have like a list of maybe like 30 different shows in the notes app on my phone that I'm like, I'm at least a season behind. I need to watch this. And I don't know where you're going here, but I love TV and TV misses me and I miss TV.
It's probably more Leafs games than anything for you right now when you do have the opportunity to sit down in front of a TV. You poor man being a Leafs fan right now. That's just unfortunate. But where I was going was just wanted to get a quick little, what are the hosts watching, and maybe some suggestions for our listeners. So Shawnee G, I'll let you think about that for a second. I got a couple off the top of my head that I am absolutely in love with right now. The Pit season 2. Anybody that hasn't watched The Pit yet, season 1 is incredible, start to finish. I'm not really a big medical drama guy, but this show is something different. It is a whole other level. Each episode is an hour within their day. So the whole season takes place just in one shift, and all the madness that takes place in one shift for ER doctors. It is an incredible show, well acted, well written, and I believe it won a couple Emmys for season 1. If it didn't win, it was definitely nominated. And season 2 has been coming out now. I think it's on like episode 4 of season 2, something like that. So highly recommend. And the other that comes to mind right now that just started recently is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I am a big Game of Thrones fan. I love the original show, Game of Thrones. I follow the House of the Dragon series when it is around. This is some of the best TV that, like, just grinning from ear to ear for an entire like 30 minutes. They are actually a little bit shorter episodes, but they're just grinning from ear to ear the entire time. It's much more lighthearted than your typical Game of Thrones. Anyone familiar with Game of Thrones knows how dark that show can get. This is much more lighthearted. It feels almost more like comedy with some action sprinkled in this Game of Thrones world, and I have thoroughly loved it through 3 episodes so far. Like I said, just like grinning the entire time. The jokes, the dynamic between Sir Duncan and Egg, their dynamic is just incredible. So highly recommend that. And I did have another one in my head that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. Oh, Fallout season 2, another fantastic show. So those are the 3 really that I've got going on. It's going to be a big year for TV shows, especially if you're a nerdy guy like me and like Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that. It'll be an exciting 2026. But that's what I got going on so far at the moment. Shawnee G, what are you binging on right now?
Absolutely nothing. G- Gabby has been away in Florida since October with some family stuff down there. So I haven't watched anything new that has been released in that time. I want to.
I was gonna say, with Gabby being
so.
gone, it would seem like a good time to catch
No,
up on
because she
binge,
wants
but I
to
guess
watch
you can't
all
binge
these-
without her. Yeah,
No,
you can't do it without her.
no. I started watching Pluribus on Apple TV Plus, and I get like 15 minutes in. I'm like, oh crap, this is awesome. She's gonna want to watch this. So I stopped watching that, and yeah, so she gets home on Saturday, and it's just going to be like full on binge 24/7 for like the next 2 months to get caught up on everything.
What's first up on the list? Is it going to be Pluribus?
No, I think first will probably be either Pit or Fallout, something like that. I'm not sure. There's also shows that we had started that we had to stop. So like I haven't seen the end of Task or whatever. It's killing me. It's killing me. But I like staying married, and so I've been good. I haven't watched anything. I just rewatched the entire Game of Thrones for fun, and so that was good. That was good. Anyway, yeah. So I haven't seen anything. Galen, are you able to actually watch anything these days?
Yeah.
Other than the movie?
Gabby, just so you know, Sean's actually typing in our group chat right now. Guys, this is all bullshit just for the show. I'm all caught up on the Pit. Loving. No.
As if she listens to this show.
Yeah, true. It's not even worth it. No, you're a smart man, Sean. I mean, my only one secret is there are some shows that Brenna and I have that we don't watch together, and so those will be the ones that I'll sneak in. Like, she doesn't watch The Last of Us. She doesn't watch Fallout, so I'm actually behind on Fallout. I'm behind on The Last of Us. Those are both on my catch up, but those are things that I'll watch when she's gone to sleep early, or I got a day or two with some time or whatever. But lately it's been more rewatches for me as well. So the one series that I just finished, you anime fans out there will recognize the name Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood as one of the best anime limited series of all time. It's about a couple of brothers, weird, I know, with the name being Brotherhood, whose mom dies very young and who've been abandoned by their father. And in this universe, you can do this crazy magical thing called alchemy and use science to transmute elements and things in the world into other things. They try to transmute their mom back after she dies, and some very funky, scary, dark things happen. It's a series that has everything. It's got dark moments, it's got hopeful moments, it's got insight, some really great commentary on the state of the world. So I think it's like up there as one of the highest, if not the highest rated anime series or limited series on IMDb, maybe edged out by one or two, but really spectacular. And rewatching Breaking Bad as well, and that one I'm rewatching with Brenna. We currently have only the finale left, which for my money is the greatest 60-ish minutes of TV in history, so I'm very excited to watch it. I have been really enjoying going back through it. There are so many little moments, so many little things that you miss that just make it spectacular. So rewatches for me, and hopefully I'll have some time for some new shows, all of which, not all of which, all of the ones that you listed are on my list, and I got a longer list than that even, so.
You definitely got to get caught up on The Last of Us, because that was a great finish to that season. I will say season one probably a little bit better in my book, but season two was still great. It's always good when you can, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Pick hairs. What's the split hairs? Split hairs. There we go. Between two good seasons of television like The Last of Us has. But that has been a lot of TV talk. I will throw one out there because you guys mentioned some rewatches there, and this show isn't even that old, and I've already rewatched it twice, I think, and that is Andor. It is unbelievably ridiculous. It might be my favorite TV show of all time at this point. Obviously, being a big Star Wars nerd, that side of it helps. But season 2 from start to finish, just there's no lightsabers, there's no the Force. Like, it's very underworld Star Wars and Rebels versus Empire, and it is incredible. And the last five episodes are all 8.5 or higher on IMDb. Just a peak ending. And listen here, okay, a little peek behind the curtain. Sean is making fun of me in our show notes right now, and I don't appreciate it. I don't think all of our listeners will have watched Andor. Yes, it was popular and a lot of people watched it, but I'm going to continue to preach the praises of Andor as just an incredible piece of television. But that is going to do it for this little Missed Mando TV talk segment that sprung up here. It won't be long before we're back into watching some disc golf. And speaking of disc golf, let's get into it. We have a fun show ahead. We've actually got a tournament to recap, as was alluded to in our intro. But first, we are going to send it over to our feature interview for this episode. And I am so excited to welcome FPO Player of the Year for 2025, Holyn Handley, to the show. And we will be right back on Missed Mando. Our next guest joined the PDGA in 2020, quickly making the jump to FPO in the same season, and she picked up the pace in 2021, getting into 25 events and racking up 12 wins. By 2022, she was touring full-time and collected 11 top 10s at Elite Series and Majors, highlighted by a third-place finish at Worlds. Her rapid rise continued in 2023 when she took 6 podiums and 13 top 10s in 19 events, including a win at Throw Pink, and went even further in 2024, where in 21 events she had 20 top 10s, 10 podiums, and 3 Pro Tour wins. 2025 brought her best season to date, leading the FPO division in top 10s with 18, podium finishes with 11, and wins with 5. And in December was awarded with the 2025 Elaine King Player of the Year Award. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the Missed Mando podcast from Grapevine, Texas, Holyn Handley. Holyn, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It is our honor, and I mentioned this off air before we started, but I'll mention it on air as well. Just an absolute baller background right now with the victory plaque right behind you. But before we get into all of, obviously, last season plans coming up and whatnot, as we like to do with first-time guests on the podcast, let's take things back to the start of your disc golf journey. When did you first discover disc golf, and who or what originally got you introduced to the sport?
Yeah, it was around the end of 2019, and me and my boyfriend, we were living in California, we were working, we were kind of trying to find a hobby that would get us outdoors a little bit more, as our hobbies included lifting weights and board games, all indoor things. And so, we tried a variety of things, but I think he came across a Joman's video purely by chance on YouTube. And then, did the whole, hey, it's only $25 for a starter pack. We can get it at Dick's Sporting Goods. There's a free-to-play 9-hole, pitch and putt. Which we didn't know it was called a pitch and putt at the time, but there's a little free-to-play course in Irvine. And that's literally how we got started. And then found Huntington Beach, found La Mirada, all in our area, and just really got hooked pretty quickly.
Yeah, super weird to me that we started playing around the same time and we have the totally different trajectory, because I'm like a 890 rated M83 scrub and Player of the Year. Weird. So still throwing it back. So your first tournament in 2020, when you first started competing, at least in sanctioned events, as far as we know, was the 2020 Surf City Open FA1, which you won by a casual 13 strokes. And then you won your next one, and then your next one, the challenge at Goat Hill, by 14 strokes, and then it was on to FPO. Did you really enjoy competing right from the start? Was it something you picked up as time went on? Because you were shredding.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually wasn't going to compete when we first got started and found out there were tournaments. I had told Tyler, I was like, you can compete. I'll caddy for you. It's I don't really want to get into it. And mostly because I know myself and I know if I start getting competitive, it's going to turn into an obsession. And I was right. Lo and behold, I got obsessed enough it became my career. But yeah, we played. I think our first time playing competitively, we actually did like an unsanctioned monthly at Huntington Beach or something, and I played like MA3 because they didn't have a women's division. And then for that Surf City Open, I actually tried to play FA3 because it was my first time, and everywhere I read was like just getting the lowest one, and there were only like 3 women, so they just merged us all into one category. Fun fact: that was the first time I ever saw Owen Scoggins play because she was playing and she won the FPO that year. But yeah, we played that first tournament, and I was hooked. I wanted to play in all of these tournaments. I was looking up everything from the year before, trying to figure out like, okay, what tournaments are going to be this summer. And then like days later, less than a week later, COVID shut everything down. This was early March 2020, so like everything was shut down. Couldn't play anything, couldn't even go to courses for a while, which kind of forced me to like, if I wanted to play, we would go set up safari holes like at our local like park, which is tiny park, but just big enough that you could like make a couple safari holes by moving the basket around. So that kind of got me into like doing field work. And then somewhere in the middle of that summer, it occurred to me to film myself and look at like how I was throwing. We were watching pro disc golf. We were doing the whole thing. We'd watched every Jomez video. I would have it like up at work, like off to the side while I'm working and I'm watching disc golf and stuff. So we were like fully obsessed. And it occurred to me to like actually film myself throwing. And then I looked at it. I was like, oh, I don't, I don't look anything like the people I'm watching on Jomez. It's pretty terrible, actually. Like rounding horribly, like cranking everything over on Anheuser. And so that kind of started the journey of really trying to get like form figured out and trying to get like as good as I could at throwing. And then, yeah, the challenge at Goat Hill, like I had gotten to a point where like my form was pretty good and I like was naturally kind of explosive. So I had really good distance. My putt was kind of coming along, and I'd kind of told myself once I play an event where it's over 900 rated, I'll move up. And all the FA1 girls were kind of like, yeah, move up, please. And so, yeah, moved up. And then, that was kind of it for the amateur career. I think I played like my first big FPO event was the 2021 Maricopa Open. And I had to go all the way to Arizona just to find an event to play that had an FPO division because like COVID really killed the Southern California scene for a while. And yeah, that kind of kickstarted like the pro side of things because I ended up beating Jennifer Allen and Katrina Allen and catching all this attention. And yeah, so that was basically it for year one.
That first year in FPO, you had 2 second places, both times to Owen Scoggins.
Only Sue?
Did you know? I think so. Yeah. Did you know much about her and the other sort of stars of the FPO division? And did your experience playing against these sort of legends of the sport has it evolved over the years to the point? I mean, now that you're every bit as good or better than them and you're beating them for wins.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. Actually the first time I got into I watched everything on Jomez. I watched all the FPO coverage. So I knew who everybody was pretty quickly. And the 2020 Wintertime Open, which then was like the big a lot of people would come play that A tier kind of as a warm up for tour. So that was the first time I saw Paul play. I saw Owen, I saw Kona, Jessica Weiss, like all these names, came through, and I actually followed the FPO cards. So I don't know if there was coverage of it or not, but I might be in the background in the crowd. But that was like a couple months after we started playing, watched them play. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of my early FPO career was characterized by me just like trying to catch Owen. Because you get her on like a par 54 like park style course, like she might be the best in the world, like, and it's not even close. I think even to this day, because that's just the kind of golf that she shreds at. She's like, it's funny. The first time I ever shot 1,000 rated round was at a B tier, and I still got second because it was against Owen. So that's just how good she was. But I remember actually the first time I played with her was there's like a team challenge between the La Mirada Club and the Oak Grove Club. And at the time, I wasn't playing FPO yet. I was still playing FA1, but we didn't have an FPO. So they asked me to play the FPO slot, and that meant I was playing against Own. And that was the first time I ever saw her putt. And I remember just being like, oh, that's what that's supposed to look like. Because I was doing the am putt of just barely get it to the basket. And most of the time, you just kind of doink it on the page. And then she, you know, her style is just fire it in there. Whether there's like a hole one at La Mirada, if you're short side of the basket, it's death putt. Like if you airball it, you're going down a hill. And she just ran it from 30 feet. Didn't even think about it and jams in. And I remember being like mind blown. I was like, oh, that's how a professional is. And that's just how she plays. And so, yeah, like seeing her level of confidence did have a huge impact on me early on. And I think a lot of my early motivation was to try to chase her, because I kind of had it in my head that like, well, I throw further, so I should be better, which is nonsense. I know it's nonsense now, but at the time I didn't know that. But yeah, playing against her, and then I was early on, I was a huge Kristen Sitar fan. I really like Katrina Allen, I like Paige Pierce, all of them. And so it has been an interesting kind of changeover, because now they're my peers. And so while, you know, I'm still a fan of them, like most of the time I'm just thinking about beating them. I'm not necessarily thinking about how like cool I think they are. Although they certainly like obviously still are super cool to me.
Having Own jam a 50-foot putt in your face is definitely one way to be welcome to the FPO division. But light a fire to want to do that. I will say, even for myself, I think some of the highlights that I enjoy watching most are just Own putting tapes, just one after another. Her at Worlds last year was absolutely insane. But so you mentioned something that actually sets up perfectly for this next question that I was going to ask, and that's going back to the 2021 Maricopa Open, where you took down the win against Kat Allen and Jen Allen, getting on Terry Miller's coverage for the first time, where he said, quote, "We don't see many women who come in and immediately compete the way that you have," end quote. What did that win do for your career? And at what point did sponsors come knocking on the door? Did those two things kind of match up timeline wise?
Yeah, I would say Maricopa Open really like launched my pro career, because through basically I had 3 companies like the next day reaching out to me. So through Terry, got me in touch with Dynamic Discs through Eric McCabe, and then Katrina, who was a prodigy at the time, you know, told them about me and they reached out, and then Jennifer told Innova about me and they reached out. So really, like, you know, it's a huge, you know, thank you to them for like being willing, you know, lose to me and then help me. But yeah, like I had sponsors interested right away. OTB Discs was, they were first starting to like really build their team. I think at the time they had been sponsoring Ezra Aderhold and were starting to like really pick up and be bigger. And so they signed me, they signed Ella Hansen, they signed a whole bunch of new players that were kind of West Coast players. So yeah, Maricopa Open really like put me on the map. Because like I'd been completely unheard of, except for like Own, who knew who I was, but no one else really did. And then obviously Terry putting it on his channel, like that caught a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of my favorite things about this sport is the people. I mean, you really find yourself amongst a great group of individuals, and they'll go to bat for you if you're part of their tribe, they got your back, which is so cool. Also in 2021, you started dipping your toes into the Pro Tour. You played 2 national tour stops and 2 majors, and cashed at 3 of them, and cashed at almost every other event you played that year. So I have to imagine that first off season between 2021 and 2022, you're presumably thinking, you know, do I jump up to the Pro Tour full time? What were your thoughts on the Pro Tour back then? And was there much of a debate, or was it like, no, I'm doing this?
Yeah, so I didn't intend at all to play like on tour full time up until like the week before I decided, or the week before I like quit my job and did the move. Because I kind of lucked out that in 2021 Worlds was in Utah, so that was pretty close, and then US Women's was in California, so they were very close to me. And then that was the first year they had the OTB Open, and then obviously Vegas was still out there, so 4 events, which we unfortunately just don't have that in these days. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of go see how I stacked up. against pros. And I mean, I did pretty well. I would have cashed in all 4 events, but like the second or third to last hole at US Women's at like double or triple bogey, which knocked me out of the cash. So it was pretty close to 4 for 4. But even like after all of that, and after picking up a couple of A-tier wins against some like notable players, like I think the first one was Visalia. It was in Visalia, California. I won that one, and then I won the Veterans Park Open in Arlington against Maria. But even after those, this was like late November, and I'm like, I'm still not gonna tour. I'm sitting at like 930 rated because I had a very good job. I was working as a process engineer in a medical device company and was like reasonably happy there. And it seemed like kind of a silly thing to do to like quit that career to go play disc golf. But then we had kind of decided California is getting really expensive. We wanted to move back to Texas, be a little bit closer to family. And so I was starting to go through that process of looking for jobs and applying for jobs. And I just like realized like my heart just wasn't in it. It wasn't like when I was applying for jobs the first time where it was like, I need a job and like, this is what I want to do. It was like kind of in the back of my head, I knew I'm good enough to be doing this disc golf thing. Like I'm cashing in these events and like I'm as good as a lot of like the kind of midfield. And that's without really dedicating that much time to it. That's dedicating a few hours a week to practice. It's kind of like, what could I do if I had like a dedicated off season where I could treat it like a job? And then I, had a little bit of money saved up and I kind of ran the numbers and was like, I could just like have, still have an apartment in Texas and like not do anything for a year. And like, I'd actually be fine. I have like that much money saved. So like, let's just try it. We'll try it for a year. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go get a job and then I'll know. And it ended up working out. And so we're still touring.
Yeah, I'd say that it worked out pretty well. It's a bit of an understatement. 2022 is your first year on tour and you came in, I would say the bang, cashing at every event and placing in the top 10 in 10 of 14 events, including a third at Worlds. What was it like that first year on tour? Was it just like whirlwind? Did it take long to figure out just like how to tour?
Yeah, it definitely took a bit to figure out how to tour. So at the time I had, my boyfriend had a truck and I had a car and he was planning to get a car whenever he moved to Austin. So I sold my car and used that money as a down payment for a very small trailer. And then I took his truck on tour and that's what I toured in that first year. And basically from the beginning of the year up until Worlds, I was by myself. Because he didn't want to go on the road yet. He was wanting to stay at home. And he came out to like a couple of events, but was still mostly staying at home. So yeah, it was a lot of like, where do I go? Like, where do I stay? Like, I know people kind of stay at the course, but like, what does that actually look like? And
Planet Fitness.
yeah, like Planet Fitness. So I had the Planet Fitness thing, but I'm just like, do I just park here and like go sleep in the back? Is that fine? Like, can I just leave my trailer at this course? Didn't know about like campgrounds or any of that stuff. And barely even really knew how to take care of a trailer, even though I did a ton of research. It was still just like, I had to go practice like driving with it and parking it and all of that stuff too. So it was a lot of just like kind of having to, I'm a very introverted person, but it was a lot of like having to kind of get out of that comfort zone and like ask people things and ask for help. And like, that's kind of how I, made a lot of friends when I went to OTP Open that year. Cause I flew out there and like was trying to save money. So I was having to bum rides from people. I was staying, with someone who worked at OTP. So yeah, it was a lot of just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants and hoping for the best. But, what's nice about the kind of tour, the tour, like life, the tour kind of ecosystem is, we all do a pretty good job of watching out for each other and like, giving that information and even now with people on tour, it's like now I know all the great places to stay if you're in an RV, so I'm always happy to give that information out. And then yeah, maybe by like halfway through the year I kind of had it figured out of like how to find places and get them booked, and now I've got it down to like a sign. Like I already have all of my 2026 places booked, like it's planned. So I've systematized it. But yeah, that first year was very like just kind of send it and see what happens.
You probably noticed when the Allens hooked you up with sponsors and record referrals and Terry and stuff. Who, when you on that first year on tour, who were some of the players that maybe took you under their wing a little bit, showed you the ropes, and maybe gave you some guidance?
Um, Very quickly became friends with Ella and Raven, who are still my best friends now. Because that was also their first full years on tour, so it kind of turned into like, hey, I found a spot, like we can all stay here. Like, hey, do you guys want to split this spot? So we kind of figured it out together, kind of as a group. But like Kona was someone who had reached out and was like, hey, if you have questions, like hit me up. And Paige and Missy were also really nice to us and very welcoming when we first got on tour. But yeah, honestly, I feel like just about anyone I could have reached out to and asked if I needed to.
I absolutely love the disc golf community. So looking back on how far you've come in a relatively short time, having just played your first tournament in 2020, and now rising all the way to 2025 FPO Player of the Year. What memories from your early years on tour come to mind most when you look back at that time in your life?
Oh man, I mean, there's a lot. Probably the most notable was I referenced it already, but going to that OTB Open, that was when like Ella and Raven and I really became friends. And then the next event I played after that was Preserve, and that was again everyone camps at Preserve, like everyone stays on site for the most part. So kind of really solidified that. Um, and then like I feel like by Idlewild, like kind of had worked my way in and was like part of the group and was just like able to just kind of hang out. Um, and then obviously Worlds was huge, because that was like I got a podium and that like really, put me forward as like someone to watch. Deglo was huge because that was like that was when I first like got to talk to Bob over at Discraft, and I literally like just kind of hung around and was like, someone will introduce me to him eventually. I think I helped Vanessa was like not on the not on the elite team at the time and was like setting up some like she was selling discs like next to the elite team stuff. So like she was kind of getting the line as they were coming off. And so I was like, here, I'll help you carry your stuff over there. And I'll just hang out and chat with you for a bit. And then eventually someone was like, oh, you need to meet Bob.
Real smooth.
Yeah, real smooth there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean all like that stuff. And then going up to like the Northeast for the first time, playing GMC and Maple Hill. Like, I mean, those are just iconic disc golf locations, and that was really cool. But yeah, just like that whole year was pretty wild. And then I actually like broke even / made a tiny bit of money. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I bet. And speaking of good times, let's move on up to 2025, which was a big year for you. Last year was. You started the year by flying down to New Zealand for what we believe was your first ever international tournament, the New Zealand Disc Golf Open, which you, of course, won by 4 strokes. How was your experience playing abroad for the first time, especially somewhere as far from the States and beautiful and picturesque as New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand's awesome. In fact, last weekend when I was stuck in Boston area because of the blizzard, I was really wishing I had gone for another year. But yeah, I met Henry at Portland the year before, and I'd seen obviously everyone went down and it just looked beautiful, and we were planning to go to Europe for the first time, so also felt like maybe a good idea to kind of see how that travel would affect me, and see how long it takes to get over the jet lag, and that sort of thing. And then also nice to just have like always nice to have a warm up event, if you can, that's competitive. But yeah, I mean, I really treated it more like vacation, but played a disc golf tournament while I was down there because they're doing a great job with growing a tour from nothing, but the money's just not really there yet. Like, there's no world where you go down there as an FPO player and like break even or really make money. So it was more just treated as a vacation that I can write off on my taxes because I played a tournament. But spent a week, spent a week at the Orchard in Auckland, and then we went down to the South Island for a week and hung out in Queenstown, which was just super cool. It looks unreal. It looks like if you saw that like in a video game or on TV, you'd be like, "Nah, that's not real. That's computer generated," but it's real, and it really does look like that.
New Zealand is probably, if not number one, definitely in top 3 of my travel bucket list. Just how beautiful it is, and the people there, like everything I see and hear about New Zealand just makes me want to go there. So if you were treating it more as like a vacation, then off the course, what were some of like the big highlights from your trip? I don't know if you're a Lord of the Rings person at all. I am. So a trip to, okay, perfect. Did you get to go to the Shire or see any Lord of the Rings stuff while you were in New Zealand? What were you up to off the course?
Yeah, so the North Island is where Hobbiton, like the Shire, all of that stuff is. So yeah, we did like the big touristy, tour event.
Oh, heck yeah.
But also like the food in Auckland was insanely good. Everywhere we ate was amazing. And I guess it's kind of another just like melting pot of just a lot of different people and a lot of different really good food. One of the cool parts about the orchard, which is where we played the tournament, was they just have like, it really is a working orchard. So there's like plum trees everywhere, and they all had ripe fruit on them. So you could just be like mid round and just like grab a snack right off the street. So that was really cool. And then Queenstown was a lot of fun because we went to a lot of the like filming locations that they used for Lord of the Rings. So like Lothlorien, the forest, the river that they use that has like Isengard in the background. There's like a riverbed kind of area that they used when they have like the hobbits hiding and they see the Easterling forces going by. Like, and what's cool is they really left all of that untouched. Like, you wouldn't know it was a movie set unless you knew. So it was really cool to get there and like see it all untouched and kind of like find the spots where they were filming from and kind of imagine all of it, but it not be like a super touristy thing. And again, really good food. They have like this like big forget what it's called. It's like this big sky link thing that you go up and you can see some really cool views from like the top of a mountain. And then yeah, just where we stayed in an Airbnb that had just like mountains in the backdrop that were super cool. But yeah, just an awesome time. Definitely worth going.
And for you, it was definitely worth coming back because you came back to the US, hit the Pro Tour, and scorched it. You lit the tour on fire. You finished in the top 5 for the first 15 events in a row with 10 podiums and I think 4 wins.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, incredible start. Was there something in your game that had changed or elevated or that you worked on in the off season that really clicked and led to such a hot start?
Yeah, I think so. Going into 2025, I didn't work on a ton of form changes. The main thing I really worked on was trying to get like kind of later release. So like instead of just getting here and then kind of opening up, trying to get a little bit later and kind of opening up because
That deep pocket?
Yeah, the deep pocket. Because my theory, and I think this proved out, was the later your release, kind of the less your like error prone. So like if you think of if I release like I'm gonna release somewhere in here, but like the later you get that point, like the less error you're kind of prone to because you can only pull it so far. So then it's like how far can you pull it versus how much can you early release it? And I think if your pivot point ends up being more forward, you're less likely to release it early. So I think that helped a little bit. I had a little bit of a grip change that I was hoping get the nose down a little bit and then allow me to like brace a little bit better. And I think I got a little bit of that. That was really it for like anything messing with form. It was mostly just trying to get better at shaping shots and knowing my discs really well. And what's nice is when you don't spend a ton of time on form stuff, you can spend a lot more time on other parts of the game. It's like anytime you go back and make major changes to your form, you have to spend the rest of the time kind of relearning and getting back to where you already were, but hopefully a little bit better. And the less you have to do that, I think, is nice. And then just like, yeah, mentally, just I think being able to like kind of stay in the moment a little bit better. There were definitely times during the season where I kind of struggled with that, but I felt like I really just got to a place where like even my not having my best, I could still get a really good finish. And it was only when I played really bad that I would even drop out of the top 5. So it's kind of like raising the ceiling a little bit, but mostly raising the floor. So just getting overall consistent and like game planning better, like picking better shots that, even if this doesn't, even if I don't have my best game on this day, the choices I'm making are still going to be pretty good. They're not going to be like disastrous. So I was like avoiding disastrous holes, disastrous rounds. And if you can do that in FPO and just be like consistently pretty good and then occasionally really good, you can get some pretty good results.
I will say, following up on that, that I do think raising the floor is almost more important than raising the ceiling in terms of talent. I find, at least, I think that's one thing that helped Kristen be so dominant in her time, was just that her floor was so high that even when she was having off events, she was still a lot of the times even pushing for wins, and definitely still racking up lots of podiums. And as somebody whose nickname in disc golf is Roller Coaster Robbie, I definitely need to figure out something to do with that. So I won't continue to pry at that during the interview, but at some point I may have to pick your brain on something, because the roller coaster trend for me has to change at some point. I famously have a tournament where I shot rounds in the 700s, 800s, 900s, and thousands in one single 4-round tournament. With round one, I think so too. It's kind of the highlight of my career. But round one was, I think, 773 rated, and round two was 1,003 rated. So just a casual 230 ratings points between rounds.
That might be
I honestly think it might be. To be bad enough to shoot 770, yet good enough to shoot 1,000 plus, it's like 3 years later, my brain still can't figure out how
3 strokes difference.
And to add another twist to it, round one that I shot really bad from was from the short layout on this course, and the 1,000 was from the long layout.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't even.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
It's wild. But anyways, yes, Roller Coaster Robbie is something that I got to work on. So hearing you talk about raising the floor is something that I definitely took to heart. But moving on, you've done a pretty good job of teeing up some future questions as you've answered some earlier ones, and something that I wanted to talk about was you also played in Europe for the first time in 2025 after the start in New Zealand. You made the European summer trip, playing events in Norway, Finland, and Estonia. How was your overall experience of that trip over in Europe? Was there anything that really surprised you? And something that I'm really interested in asking about was just how insane were the crowds at Worlds in Finland? It looked bonkers.
Yeah. Overall, really enjoyed my Europe experience. I definitely learned a lot of things, and a lot of things that I'm going to do differently when I go over there this year, because I feel like I started really strong, like got to Norway early enough to like have time to get over the jet lag. And like I felt really good going into the event, won that event. Going over to Estonia was a little rough because I had back up a little bit. I'd gotten sick right after US Women's. I was sick during the Discmania Open, and like also dealing with some like struggles in the heat. In addition to that, got over it, get over to Norway, play that first tournament, and then like Sunday night, I get sick again. Apparently, if you get a cold in the US and then you go to Europe, you're actually like extra susceptible to catching like the European strain of whatever you had, which is what happened to me. I feel like I just caught it from somebody on a bus or something. So I get over to Estonia, I'm sick again. And then between that and then some weather things, didn't really get the kind of practice that I needed. Wasn't feeling like not sleeping well, kind of go into that event on the back foot. And then of course had like a pretty terrible like rounds 1 and 2. I think by the end I ended up finishing okay, and I think I like kept the top 5 streak alive by some miracle. But kind of just like didn't have the greatest headspace. And then Finland was a little rough because got over all of that, was sleeping a little bit better, but then there was that heat wave, which, I'm from Texas, so 85 degrees Fahrenheit does not sound hot. However, when you don't have air conditioning, 85 degrees Fahrenheit is very hot because you just never get a break from it, except for when you're driving in your rental car. So between that and then being in a tiny little studio Airbnb with no air conditioning and not particularly good blinds, because you also got to remember they have like a certain amount of sunlight over there. So again, just not sleeping well at all. All things that like I can fix, when I go over there this year, like knowing better. But just was not really set up great for success at Worlds. Hence why I got 8th. I finally broke the top 5 streak. But the crowd at Worlds was insane, as you said, and especially rooting for the Finnish players. But hearing them root for Henna, hearing them root for Evelina and Silva, and for Niklas when the MPO were going through, was really, really cool. It was also cool, like seeing like the first poster we saw when we were like driving through Finland was like a World poster with Evelina on it, and I was like, I know her. But just seeing like they treat it a little bit more, they take it a little bit more seriously, just overall as a culture there, which was really, really cool. But yeah, it's a bummer we don't have another like main DGPT event there. I know we have the Heinola Open, but like I doubt any FPO players are going to play that with the US team. In Utah the following weekend. But yeah, Finland was awesome. Norway was awesome. Estonia was awesome. Like the course is okay. It's not like there's not a ton to work with there. You're not going to have like a Crow Cold level course, but the just event quality that they were able to put on, the amenities, like the professionalism, all of that was just like next level and really cool.
I think I heard, I don't remember which pro it was, but they said that playing Worlds, they really, really felt like true professional athletes, like on the world stage. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, and I would say for Estonia as well, like they both did a really good job of kind of creating that atmosphere. It's just like the way they had like the stands set up and the barriers and the way they announce and like the number of people, and they have all of these really good amenities for the fans as well. And then having like they had like a one air conditioning you could find was the air conditioned like players trailer where they had like snacks and stuff, and you could find like a break from the heat. But yeah, definitely next level.
Did you get to throw off the platform at the festival grounds?
I did. Yeah. We all tee from up there. So yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Then, yeah, I got to throw from up there. And then also they do like a little pre-tournament competition or whatever. It's like 16 of us, I think, got to play on teams of 4, and that was really fun.
Yeah, I love that. Before I get to the next question, I just want to get it on the record that my co-hosts are bastards, because Sean and Robbie are like, well, 5 top 15s, 10 podiums, 4 wins. That was amazing. You went to Worlds. This was incredible. A professional athlete for the first time. And they have me asking, after your super hot start, you then missed the top 10 in back-to-back events for the first time since 2023, including your lowest finish at a single event since 2021. So I just want to put it on the record that you guys are jerks for having me bring this up. But I do think that there's a kernel of that we want to get at here, and sort of there's a way we can roll this into a positive, which is, how do you handle adversity? I mean, is it something where you kind of live in it a little bit and go, I'm not going to get back to this feeling again? You kind of push it to the back of your mind and keep sailing through it as best as you can, because you really bounce back. I mean, you got to this really important end of season stretch and you were at your best. You won the tour championship. You're the biggest paycheck of your career. So how did you ride through that adversity in the middle? Robbie and Sean, you're jerks.
Yeah, I mean, anytime stuff like that comes up, I think it helps one to just kind of keep it in perspective. Because you remember you don't get highs without lows. Like none of the wins or anything really feel that like important, unless you've had to like work through something to get them. And then, looking back on it, obviously trying to figure out like, okay, well, why did that happen? What can we do to kind of prevent that? Because I felt like I had a really good system in place that let me have, very consistent top 5s until that point. And I think what it was is I did have a rough go the last couple of weeks. I was in Europe, just like getting sick again and not sleeping very well. And then you contrast that to the years before I hadn't gone to Europe. I had taken a month completely off. And so I would go into Ledgestone, like just dying to compete again, like bored out of my mind, dying to compete again. And really, I came back and I was just like, I really just want a break, man. Like I'm tired. And I think that really came through, because like the more tired I was, or like kind of burnt out I was, it's like the more you're kind of having to force yourself to go. And it's like, if I'm not excited to compete, it's really hard for me to compete my best. Because then like my heart's not quite in it, and then I'm frustrated. I'll start to play kind of bad, and then I'll get extra frustrated because I'm already kind of in a bad mood, and it's just like this kind of snowball effect. And that was really evident at Ledgestone. And then got a little bit of time off before going into Deglow and had a much better performance at Deglow. With, had the last 3 holes gone differently, I would have won at Deglow. And then we took a nice long break at Montreal. We had a week off at Montreal, didn't think about disc golf at all. Just like, because that's really what I needed. It was classic burnout. I needed some time away. So I was trying to like get as much like relax and fun time. And when we were at GMC, like when I wasn't playing, I was trying to go on hikes. I was trying to go like do fun stuff to like just get my mind off of disc golf. And then going like before Throw Pink, we always do like this big friend trip to the beach in Delaware. Ella's family's got a beach house down there, so like she always invites like a huge group of us to hang out. So like had that time off, and then going into the finale is just, this happened a few times where like I'll be in kind of a funk and I'll be just like so sick of being in a funk, and I'll be like, I don't even care how this tournament or this round goes. I just want to like not feel crappy at the end of it. And so that was kind of my last day of the tour championship. I was like, I did a really good job this week. Like, whatever happens, I want to feel good about my last round of the season. And when I can like very like legitimately feel that way, it's not something I can fake, but when I can genuinely feel that way, that's usually when I end up playing my best, because you kind of take some weight off and you can kind of relax and you can loosen up and actually throw well. So yeah, like it took me a while, but I was able to clear enough burnout and kind of like find the joy again, to have a good finish.
So I went through your stats for 2025 across the whole season, and I compared how you played on average for your first round of an event and then your final round of an event. And speaking of playing your best, you seem to be able to lock in on those final rounds, because you in basically every category, fairway, circle 1 reg, circle 2 reg, C1 putting, scramble, strokes gained, tee to green, like basically all of them, you do better in your final round than you do in your first round. Do you, like, I know you said that you're naturally a competitive person. Do you find that in that final round of events, you just like find an extra gear or lock in mentally? Is it like an unconscious thing, or like what is it? Because it is very consistent that your final rounds are you improve in basically every aspect of your game.
Yeah, it's something I've noticed as well, and it's enough that every time it happens, Tyler's dad texts me and is like, "Come back, kid, strikes again." So we're aware of it. But I think really what it is it's not so much that sometimes I do think I lock in and find another gear. I think it's more that I put a lot on myself earlier in the tournament. I'm like, all right, round 1, here we go. Opportunity to like try to win a tournament. And I think that pressure that I put on myself kind of causes me to tense up, and I'll kind of have that bad round, or like a mid rounds, where I'm 5-6 back. And then by the time I get to that last day, you're just like, well, I'm not going to win, so may as well just like play. And then when I take that stress off of myself, it frees me up and I play really well. And yeah, so I think it's not so much that I like get more serious and more locked in. It's more that I kind of release that pressure a little bit and kind of free myself up to play a little bit more. And I think the opposite is true too. When I do happen to have a really good first and second round, there have been a lot of times where I've been in contention on the final day and actually struggled. And so I think the common thread is when I put a ton of pressure on myself and I don't like dissipate it and find a way to like loosen up, I tend to play really, really poorly. And then the times where I'm just like, whatever, those tend to be the times that I play really well.
It's clearly working. You don't get to Player of the Year and it not working really well for you. So changing gears a little bit, you and Ella run free lessons for women at, is it every Pro Tour stop during the year?
It's
Or
most of them. It's
most of
it's not lessons. It's like a 2-hour clinic. Usually we cap it at about 40 people, but yeah, that's it. It's at most of the tournaments. I think sometimes like US Women's we don't always necessarily do, or sometimes like the really, really busy weeks we might take off just because we have a lot on our plate. But usually it's most of them.
My wife Gabby, who says hello, attended one in Florida in 2024. She loved it. I watched from the sidelines, and it was excellent. It was really, really well attended. And where did the idea for doing these clinics come from? And how do you feel that they've gone? Are you going to continue them in 26?
Yeah, actually, this week we have our meeting with our friend Hannah at UDisc, and we're gonna get figure out what events and stuff and start getting that moving. But actually, it was UDisc who came to us. It was Hannah Jensen, I think is her last name. Who just like it was a passion project of hers, and she pitched it to UDisc and said like, hey, can we sponsor some women's clinics? I'll find the coaches, like I'll make this like my project and everything. And then she reached out to me and Ella, just because knowing that like we worked with Uplay and then like the kind of content that I make with that's mostly instructional, she was like, these two would be really good. And so yeah, I think 2023, kind of the second half of 2023, we ran just a few clinics. I think OTB might have been the first one that we did. But basically she finds a local women's group, or just like a person who runs events locally, and we'll work with them to figure out like a location and a time, and then to make sure that people know it, and to get people there, and then we just show up and teach. And yeah, we're definitely going to continue doing it. It's something that UDisc is really, really passionate about. In fact, I finally met Josh, who's the big boss man at UDisc, at Disc East, and he said like, yeah, we want to like not only continue but expand it. So we're gonna talk about that, like maybe doing some stuff in the off season or maybe some off weeks, because it's something that I think the women we teach really, really benefit from, and it's something that UDisc is really passionate about. And of course, we're passionate about it too.
Speaking of your instructional videos, I will say that you are probably MPO or FPO, my favorite pro to follow for instructional content in the way that you do it. You are so good at explaining things, breaking things down. Just it all makes sense. It's all really good and effective stuff. So when did you kind of start teaching? Do you have like another athletic background that sort of makes that stuff sort of like connecting to your body and all that, the movement of the body? Does that come more like natural from previous experience, or have you had to, really, I'm sure obviously teaching yourself stuff has been a part of that as well. So who were kind of like coaches that you watched as you were getting into disc golf that taught you at first, and you've continued to grow on that?
Cool. Well, first, thanks for watching my content. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I started doing that in 2022, I think, like maybe the summer break when everyone was in Europe, and I stuck around in the Midwest and was playing a bunch of A-tiers. But I really started it because I knew like I got to do something on social media, and like just posting videos of me throwing ain't it. So I'm like, what am I good at? Like what can I offer content wise that people would actually want to see? And so I decided this thing of like, well, I'll just post some tips, and I called this like, I'll call it Pro Tip Tuesday. It really came from like, I think, I was self-taught, and it was, especially at the time in 2022, pretty recently self-taught. And so I remembered a lot of the like struggles of like, how do you not round, and how do you not dip, and how do you grip all of that stuff like I had to kind of work through, and it was fairly recent. And so it was easy to kind of remember like what it felt like to like struggle with that. And then what were some drills that actually helped me get through that, or, fix those form problems. And because it was very genuine like that, it was very effective at helping others. As for the like ability to explain it, I think that really comes more from my engineer background. Because I was a process engineer, which for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that's basically your company is making a part, and we need to figure out how to make a lot of them, and we need to get improve those processes. So you're engineering manufacturing processes. But it means you have to basically quickly become your company's expert on a particular area and then be able to explain that, how that system works to a variety of people of varying levels of technical knowledge. So I need to be able to explain it to another engineer, but also explain it to management and to like regulatory, like people who don't have these technical backgrounds. And so that ability to like understand something somewhat complex and like explain it simply and concisely to anybody, like carries over really well to coaching. And I did a little bit of one-on-one coaching that first off season, like going into 2022, mostly just to like get a little bit of money because I was working and I didn't have like the big sponsor deal yet. So like a little bit of that. And then obviously doing these clinics is a really nice feedback into my content because the kinds of questions I get asked, even now I'm a little further removed from the actual process of learning how to grow. But having these women being like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's like, oh yeah, I had thought about that, or like I hadn't seen that problem before. So it kind of tells me like what kind of stuff do people need to know, and then I can also kind of try it out at the clinics. And I'm like, well, if it helps these people at the clinics, it'll probably help everybody, and I can make it into a reel. So it all kind of helps each other.
Yeah, and also a great way to learn. I mean, there are not disc golf, certainly. There are very few things that I'm good enough at to teach to somebody else, but I find that whenever those opportunities do occur, that I find I'm getting something out of them too. It's not just trying to teach that person that thing, but I'm teaching myself that thing too. And sort of rolling, I mean, like Robbie's been hinting at a few times, I feel like almost every thing that we're asking you're rolling right into the next thing smoothly. So I'm loving this. One of the things that we love seeing, of course, on this podcast and just in general is growth on the women's side of the sport. And I think a major component of that is offering content that's accessible, teaching people. Like I think a pretty big barrier for some people that don't play disc golf, men or women, but that maybe manifests a little bit more and females getting involved, certainly, through my wife and women that I know, is like, oh my God, this is really hard. I go from here. And so I think certainly offering that content in different ways to help people get better is a big part of it. So all this is to say the women's side of the sport is growing. And I think that part of how and why it is to some of the reasons that we were just talking about, but it's not growing still as fast as I think anyone would like to see. I'm wondering from your perspective, are there any sort of major impediments you see, things that people in the sport can do to sort of unlock and encourage more women participation in the sport?
Yeah, it's tough because I think like a lot of the women who are on tour and like those, like we're kinds of, we don't care if we're mostly in a space that's dudes, like we're going to be there anyway. What's tough is there's a lot of women who want the community aspect of it and they enjoy the flight of the disc and they enjoy all of that stuff. But it feels like a very male dominated space, and it is. And I think there's a bit of a snowball effect with getting like a women's group started because like no one really wants to be the only girl out there, especially when you're new and you don't throw as far. Maybe you don't have an athletic background. So like, a guy who played baseball in high school picks up a disc, he can already throw it 300 feet. Whereas a girl who maybe didn't have an athletic background, like she's struggling to throw it 150 feet. And you're kind of like, yeah, I'm playing with my boyfriend and his friends. So like, I'm throwing it a third the distance. I feel, that's tough. There's also like the kind of the comfortability of going out and playing around by yourself as a woman. Like not a lot of women want to be walking around in the woods completely alone. Yeah, and so there's that. But what I've noticed is like once that girl finds like a group of women to play with, she's much more likely to stick with it. And also if you have like a woman you can learn from, you're much more likely to be receptive to it. It was like one common thing is like a lot of women when they're first starting, they're rounding pretty bad and they're hitting their chest and they don't want some like, they don't necessarily feel comfortable like talking to a dude about that, but they might feel comfortable like hearing me talk about that. I think one of the biggest things for our clinics and the impact that it's had is you'll have, you'll attract a lot of women from some different areas around where we're teaching and they'll come because they've heard of me and Ella, but then they'll realize, oh my gosh, there's 40 other women who play disc golf in this area and they swap phone numbers and they're getting some of that community. So like that's huge. I know the thing that really jump started the Southern California kind of women's scene was like there was a group of a couple of women, like if they were out playing and they happened to see a girl like following her boyfriend around and not playing, they would give her discs and say, "Hey, come play with us on Sunday. We have a group of girls that get together, all levels, like come hang out." And they kind of it was kind of a play off of like Saturday or for the boys or whatever. It was like a thing then. And so they were like, well, Sundays are for the ladies. And so they started like an unofficial ladies group, and that got a lot more people involved. And then some of those women started playing like, "Look, I'll play FA3 in the tournaments. I'll play FA1 in the tournaments." And and now you actually see like they have a really nice like women's scene down there. So I think like the women who are already in the space and really care about it, I think we have to be spearheading it. Because it's just more meaningful when it's like a woman inviting you to come play versus like, okay, you're going to go play with your boyfriend and his friends. It's like kind of a different vibe. But then as far as like, events, like anyone who's like a TD running events, like holding spots for women, like saying like, okay, we're going to hold 8 FPO spots when we first open up, and we're going to hold 8 FA1 spots. And then like, maybe give like a month, and then a month out from the event, you can open those up if they don't fill, stuff like that, to like just create space, be like, hey, there's space here for women. We want you here. Something as simple as that could be really great. And then just like, for the courses, like trying to create an environment that's very safe and welcoming. Like I know when I first started at Huntington Beach, like there was some spots like you didn't always want to play hole 10 because there was a group of dudes there like tailgating, and they would kind of like shit talk whoever was on hole 10, and you would get a lot of women who didn't want to play Huntington Beach purely because of that. And so I think, as maybe the other men around could be like, hey man, like you're kind of creating a space that's like not welcoming for everybody. Let's try to be more welcoming for everybody, stuff like that, holding each other, to that standard can go a long way.
Unfortunately, with so many things, a main detractor to women's participation in anything is men. And we definitely see that in disc golf, unfortunately. And I totally get what you're saying about the community aspect for women. One of when my wife and I, we just picked up the sport in 2021. We go to our local club, the White Spruce Disc Golf Course, greatest disc golf club in Ontario, of course. And the first person we meet is Jane Anderson Renton, who will never come on this show despite our asking as many times as I can. She is a 2-time world FA 60 champion, and the nicest person you will ever meet in your life. She was incredibly welcoming, and the first thing she said to Gabby, my wife, was, "Come to our little women's league on Sunday mornings, and no pressure. We'll teach you. We'll do whatever." And it was so welcoming, and it absolutely helped make it stick for her. And the addiction very quickly set in. We have, all the discs and 20 plus tournaments a year. But yeah, that community for women, I think is incredibly important. And I love that you're I think you're seeing it, and you're absolutely helped grow that through your clinics and through everything that you do. Have you seen the reception of FPO change during your time on tour, like in terms of spectators or courses? And do you think that there's anything that the tour could maybe still change to make FPO bigger or better or what have you on tour?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do a lot already. I'll say one of the biggest things they've done is just better course design. So, if you go look at like 2020 or 2021 Las Vegas Challenge, and you look at our layout there versus like some of the layouts we have now, of like they've done a good job of really trying to pick tees and pins that are appropriate distances, so we can actually showcase our skills. Because I think, one of the big detractors for people not wanting to watch FPO is because you give us a par 3 that's wide open, but it's 420 feet. And like maybe 1 or 2 people in the field could try to go for that. But most of us, most people are just throw a distance hyzer and then throw a little pitch up and then tap in, which is extremely boring to watch. And there's not really, it's not demanding anything. It's either not demanding anything or it's demanding so much that it's effectively not demanding anything. And it doesn't really give an opportunity to show what the women can do. It's like, you can shot shape and we can do all this stuff. But if you put it at 420 feet, like no one can do the shot shaping to 420 feet. So we have to play it a little differently. So I think that's been huge. Improved force design. They also do give a slight, they don't, so they're like added cash right to all of the Pro Tour events. They give slightly higher than proportional amount to the women so that our payout can be like a little bit more, and they pay out to 50%. That's just to try to encourage the field size to grow. And I think that's been huge. So I do generally think they try to do a lot. And there's some stuff that's just going to be a little bit hard when you have both MPO and FPO on the same course. There are going to be times, there have been times where like they make a change because they need to make the hole harder or different for MPO. And then it kind of negatively impacts the FPO. It like makes the hole worse for us. That happens sometimes. So it's really just like continuing to find the balance there. As far as like the fan base growing, I think, the fan base has grown a ton. I'll even get people who say they prefer watching FPO over MPO because they like the camaraderie. They like the way the women interact with each other a lot better. And, I don't necessarily think one has to be better than the other. I think there is kind of a nice symbiotic relationship between FPO and FPO. Like, I don't think it makes sense for us to have our own courses. I don't think we're at a level where we're going to be as sustainable, like away from the MPO field. But yeah, just continuing to like, I think give more visibility, so like those kind of side events where like your Joe Beth tutting games and, your Stens matches, like getting more of the female players in there so like you can see personalities. And I think not just having the same like 5 people every time, because I think people see a lot of me, they see a lot of and they see a lot of Missy, they saw a lot of Kristen, but like that like next layer down of FPO players is like so much like story and personality and like people that players that people would really enjoy being fans of, but they just don't know about them. So continuing to give more visibility, but also deeper visibility, not just the same 5 people all the time.
I will say that is something that us here as a podcast, we definitely try to help, as we love watching the FPO game, and something that you are by far the highest ranked player that we have ever had here for an interview. But we have, I'm sure if we went through, this is now episode, I think 53, our third, going into our third season covering disc golf, and we have had, I would say, I'm willing to say 100%, we've had more women on the show guests than we have had men. And a lot of the players that we've had have been obviously very talented disc golfers, but, more ranked in like the, 10 to 20 and even down to 30. And there are so many great personalities out there that just don't get the exposure that they should. So it's probably been one of the things that I've enjoyed most about doing this podcast, is just being able to get to meet and interact and hear stories from so many interesting people that don't get the camera coverage of some of the top level pros. But I will say, at least from my perspective here, in the time that we've been doing this, I love the growth that I've seen in the FPO field, and I just hope that it continues to grow and grow, because we are massive supporters of the FPO division here on the Missed Mando podcast. And honestly, just saying that out loud and then seeing 2025 FPO Player of the Year Holyn Handley sitting here on my screen still just kind of blows my mind a little bit. So pinch me a little bit. But moving on now, looking ahead more to this coming year, a little 2026 look ahead. Are you planning on playing a full tour this season? Or are you planning on sitting out some events? And you had mentioned earlier that, sitting out through that kind of European stretch in the summer had helped you come back really with a fire inside you to compete again. So is that something that you plan on doing this year, or how do you look ahead to the 2026 tour season?
Yeah, so I mean, I took a nice long break at the front of this off season to kind of try to clear some of that burnout and get excited again. And I think I've done a very good job of kind of managing that. So like this has been a more chill off season. Still got a lot of work done, certainly, but been a little bit more chill about it, I guess. I'm playing pretty much the same number of events as I was last year. So planning to go to Europe. It'll be a slightly shorter European swing because I think it's just the one major and then two. So 3 events total, but I think they're a little bit more condensed. I think I'm going to skip Idlewild, possibly skipping Preserve, like those events around Worlds, just because that was kind of the chunk of the year where I was really starting to feel the burnout. And obviously I can't really skip Ledgestone because that's a huge disc draft event. And then like it doesn't really make sense to skip Discmania, but then play Preserve when like just logistics wise, driving wise, like it's right there. So as of right now, planning to play the Preserve, but like, we'll see. And then probably Idlewild I'll probably skip. So then Worlds will be over. I can have 2 weeks completely off before kind of the playoffs start, the more important ending of the year events. And then I can go back to Montreal for a couple weeks because I need some bagels. Go visit Canada.
I was actually going to ask you about that earlier, and then I felt like the moment had passed. But what do you like to do when you're in Montreal? Because that is maybe my favorite city, certainly in Canada, but maybe in the world. Do you get out for a smoked meat sandwich? I know you're getting bagels. Do you climb Mont Royal? Do you go to Old Montreal? Like, what does like a couple of days in Montreal look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we spent like almost a full week there. We just stayed at the KOA right outside and took a train into the city, and it worked great. But yeah, we did take the hike up to whatever the name of that big mountain is. It was way more hard hike than I was actually expecting. And then, yeah, we went down to walk around Old Montreal for a bit. We did the carousel. Got a lot of bagels. Definitely got some smoked salmon on those bagels. Like next level. Bought some bagels, brought them back to the United States. Ate them very quickly. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we'll have to. There was a few things like we didn't really get to do that was fun that we'll have to.
Was Ella with you sampling the bagels?
No, what did she do? I forget. Off weeks she often just like goes off. And she has so many friends from Ultimate and so much family. Like she was doing something that week. But yeah, we're definitely gonna try to get our friends to go up there. Because it's actually a shorter drive if you go from Michigan to Vermont through Canada than if you go
It is
through the US. And it's like, well, we have passports now, so we may as well go through Canada. And then it was kind of like, do we want to do Toronto or do we want to do Montreal? And we ended up doing Montreal. Definitely go back.
Well, if you pass through Toronto, definitely stop in. We would love to show you some amazing courses, including Toronto's Island. We're in Toronto, yes. I'm in downtown Toronto. The boys are in the burbs. Would love to take you to the home of the 1987 World Championships, Toronto Island. An amazing course. And take the ferry out to the island. It's a whole day. It's great.
Cool.
It really aired.
I was really scared. Sean was going to say, we got to take you out to this great course, White Spruce. And I was like, Sean, she's never fucking coming back. So I'm glad you said Toronto Island instead.
Sean will never shut up about White Spruce. But I had a follow up on sort of the tour stuff. But one thing I wanted to ask quickly, because you brought up Ella there, or I think Sean brought up Ella when you were talking about food in Montreal, and it just made me think. Ella, of course, Canadian national champion in, I think it was 2022, if I'm remembering correctly. And one of my sort of favorite on-course memories is watching the MPO final round that year, and it was like hole 10 or something like that. And who comes walking up behind me but Ella, fresh off of winning with the biggest bag of hand pies that you have ever seen in your life. So I just wanted to know, has Ella shared any stories about the magical hand pies from PEI? Because there's something that I still think about to this day, like 3 years later.
Yes, I think the following year she was really trying to convince everybody, but including me, to go up there like for the hand pies, and I was like, "Bro, that is so out of the way." But back amazing. But yes, notorious hand pie lover and bagel lover.
Yes, it is a little bit of a trek for just the hand pies, but I will say that the disc golf out there is pretty magical as well.
Hand pies are now available in one grocery store in Toronto in case you needed a reason to stop on your way.
Well, we might, especially if we're doing 2 weeks. Probably don't need to do full 2 weeks in Montreal. We could stop in Toronto for a bit.
If Ella's with you, I don't see how she could not stop for hand pies.
And I'm trying to get her to do Montreal, and like I'm like, bro, you love bagels, and they got like their own special kind of bagel there. So,
Well,
It's the whole thing.
secret, you can get Montreal style bagels also in Toronto. They're not quite as good, but like if you need an extra reason, we got them here too.
Really laying it on thick to get Holyn to come through Toronto. I love it. I love it here, fellas. And the one other follow-up I had, just going back to the tour talk, was you mentioned kind of debating on playing the Preserve or not, which is this year going to be a doubles event, which is super exciting. So just looking ahead, if you do play the event, do you have a partner in mind? Will you go with Ella, or will you try and match up against Ella and take her down? What are you thinking there? As we're still a little bit of ways, but what are your initial thoughts there?
yeah, well, I missed out on having Ella as a partner. She already agreed to be someone else's partner. So
Blasphemy.
I am still in the market for a partner. I've got kind of a short list of people that I'd be down to play with them. And if I don't get any of them as a partner, I'll probably just go home and take the week off before Worlds. Because before they announced it was a doubles event, I was gonna skip it, and I'm like, I kind of gotta go play the doubles event. So now it's like, well, if I'm with someone that like I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing with, then I'll go. And if not, no harm, no foul. I'll go home for a week and chill and decompress before Worlds.
Last follow-up that I got talking about the tour is just, how do you like how the tour is organized this year? There's some changes in the tour schedule. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 new courses. There's at least the one new one in New Orleans that got added. So just looking ahead to how the tour is structured this year, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm honestly not a fan of the way it's structured this year. Not that I don't like where we're going. I'm excited we're going back to Charlotte. The one in Louisiana sounds awesome. I was hearing Silas Schultz talk about it. It's a Hauk course. It sounds amazing. So I'm very excited for the places we're going. I'm very excited we're going back to Jonesboro. 'Cause that's a course I really enjoy. But I think it's two or multiple treks going from the southeast west in spring is terrible. Especially one of them being Virginia to Jonesboro, which is about, I want to say it's like an 11 or 12-hour drive in April, and we don't have an off week in between. That's going to be rough. The other thing I'm not looking forward to is like we play the West Coast, and then we go to Europe, and then we have U.S. Women's right after. So it's like not really possible to easily get home to like leave the trailer. Like that whole logistics is going to be sketchy because I've got to try to find somewhere to leave the trailer for a month, and then go to Europe and then come back. So that's like the one part of the logistics of tour that I haven't quite figured out yet. So yeah, those things I don't love. I wish the Pro Tour would try to minimize how often we have to go from east to west in the springtime, because it is just really, it can be really bad. It can be fine, but it can also be really scary to try and like maneuver around storms. But yeah, that's really the only bit that worries me.
So the logistics kind of challenging, which we totally get. But you've now played most of the courses on tour, I think. And you mentioned being excited to go back to some of the stops. So any stops that you are particularly excited for and you want to play again? Any goals for the year for anything sort of tournament wise, where you're like, I really want to crush it here, or I want to get some redemption, or I want to bring it back up again?
Yeah, I mean, I think goal wise, like the big ones is going to be to get the major win. Obviously, it didn't have the last 2 years, didn't have the best performances in majors, so that's definitely the top of the list. I mean, I'm excited for the places I haven't been to. I haven't been to the 2 courses we're playing in Sweden. Haven't been to the one in Louisiana yet. I'm really looking forward to being back in Florida because that's one where I've podiumed it twice, but still haven't won. OTP is one that I always look forward to because I really like the community out there and getting to visit OTP, and that's another one where I've had some really good finishes to haven't won yet. And then a little redemption at Ledgestone. That was the first time since going on tour I've missed cash, so hopefully get some redemption there.
Is there a major this year that you're particularly excited for? And for the record, we on this show consider Throw Pink to be a major, even if through the PDGA. Everybody except them considers it to be a major. Exactly. So one-time major winner Holyn Handley. But is there one of the majors that you really want to take down?
It's funny you mentioned Throw Pink. So I ran a Whatnot the other day and I actually sold my caddy bib from that Throw Pink, and it says major on the caddy bib.
It does. It totally does. Come on.
Just pointing that out. I mean, I think for this year though, like it's got to be Worlds. I mean, it's Worlds. It's in Michigan. It is at Discraft's home event. So I think if there was any like opportunity to just really like have a big like that's got to be it for sure.
Have you played Black Locust before?
No,
The other course.
Yeah, they had like a flex start, I think the day after Deglo last year. But we didn't end up going and playing because I don't really want to play a flex start. I want to go play a practice round. So, but no, I mean, I'll be getting there like about as early as I can. And should get plenty of rest.
I'm on the Worlds team this year. I'm one of the volunteers or staff for it, so that'll be amazing. But Black Locust is, for my level, which is low, it's one of my favorite courses anyway. It's probably in my top 10. It's a beautiful course, and they've got like a bit of a safari layout for some of the holes, and they're adding some original holes that had been removed back into it. I think it's going to be a fantastic course for Worlds.
Cool. Look forward to it.
I'd say that the level of play seen between a round played by Sean Galbraith and a round played by Holyn Handley on that property are going to be vastly, vastly different.
Listen, it is the home of my only win. And just because there was nobody else in the division playing against me, it doesn't take away from it. It's basically the same. My PDGA account says 1 win, and it would.
Yep.
Sean,
Take that away from you.
It'll say there's less screen, but he's got one of those Coroplast signs that says 1 division winner at Black Locust, Sean Galbraith. Chenet 50.
I did not get a trophy.
You can just order yourself one. No one will know.
I'll put that idea into his head because he absolutely will do that.
You get a 3D printer now.
Yeah. So Holyn, continuing on this trend of segueing perfectly based on some comments that you're making during answering questions, we're talking about Discraft. You just signed a 2-year contract extension with Discraft, keeping you on the team through 2027. First of all, congratulations. Awesome to have a 2-year extension. How have you enjoyed working with Discraft through your career so far, and how has your relationship with them grown and evolved over these years?
Oh yeah, I mean, Discraft's awesome. I don't think there's a better company out there, honestly. Just the way that they treat their players, especially the way they treat their FPO players. There's certainly companies out there who don't have the best reputation for that sort of thing.
Prodigy. Yep.
I wasn't going to say it, but if you want to say it.
Oh, we 100% will say it. Prodigy having 0 FPO on their team is bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they tried, but they don't have a great reputation preceding them. I'll say that. But anyway, as far as Discraft, I mean, our relationship has very much been like, whatever I need, they're like, here you go, they're very much like, hey, we'll handle the marketing and the selling and the stuff, like you go in tournaments. And, that's very much what it's been. And like, if I need discs, if I need discs to sell or discs to throw on the road, like they're very quick to get them to me. Like Wes will go out on the floor and like try to find the exact ones, the level of dome, the weight, everything that I want. So like, that level of sports are great. If I want to I like special blended putters, like we've run those and like sold some on the team site, but it's mostly so I can have my own, my exact like blend of putters that I want. They're just very open to ideas and they've just been really awesome to work with. Like I feel like they treat us like how professional athletes should be treated. I think it speaks a lot that they can have multiple players where like they've had to demote them for whatever reason and those players stick around. I feel like at any other company it'd be like, screw you, I'll go somewhere else. But they do just like treat the players and like really try to give the players like the best possible situation and deal if they can. So like they're having a problem of like, okay, we literally have too many people who want to play for us. And it just creates a super competitive environment. And it is very competitive, especially on the men's side, but even on the women's side too. Like the elite team spot, I take a lot of pride in having one of those elite team spots because there's a lot of people who want them. And the fact that like they've chosen to give that to me, and to like, want to offer me a multi-year deal when they're just not really offering a lot of multi-year deals right now with like the way the climate is. I take a lot of pride in that. And I mean, I can't imagine. I don't want to go anywhere else. Hopefully I won't have to go anywhere else. They're awesome.
Well, definitely not through the end of 2027, and I'm guessing not beyond that either. And along with this contract extension announcement, you also announced, or your Tour Series disc was revealed as the Zone SS. So I'm wondering what went into the decision of that being chosen as your Tour Series disc. I mean, obviously there's a pretty darn big team at Discraft, as we were just talking about. Is there any bit of yeah, let's go, Sean. Is there any of a discussion about like who's going to get what disc this year? Do you think about like year over year having a different disc than you had the year prior be your Tour Series disc? What does that thought process look like and that conversation look like?
Yeah, I mean, originally I went with Vulture when I joined the team because out of the molds that I really, really liked, that was one that was available. And it is kind of like tenure does have does have a lot to do with it. So like, you're not going to be signed your first year of the team and they're like, oh, we're going to take the zone away from Adam Hammonds to give it to you. That's not going to happen. It is very like tenure does matter. I'm actually I was at the Pro Tour Championships or Match Play Championships, and Bob texted me, was like, hey, you're throwing the Zone SS a lot. Like, what do you think about having that as your Tour Series? Because they're looking at it from like the sales side. And I'm like, yeah, I love the Zone SS, like, especially as a wood disc. Like, it's basically flying for me like a buzz beforehand, and that's exactly what I use it for. And at the end of the day, like, they think like that's going to be the better matchup for like them to be able to get their ROI, and like, if they think it's going to sell better, I'm like, sure. And then I'm also thinking it's nice to have something a little bit more understable because a lot of my fans are, women or newer players or, people with a little bit slower arm speed. It's nice that like they can't really throw a Vulture. They're buying it because they want my Tour Series, but now they can buy my Tour Series and it's something that they'll actually throw. So it's just like kind of a no-brainer there to switch.
Yeah, like Sean could not throw a Vulture for anything if you hand one to him. So Zone SS, perfect.
Oh, and
of course he did. Gotta support.
We also have the Heat from the year before here somewhere. I forget.
They're sick. Yeah,
they're very cool. And yeah, like I love, like, I see some pros that pick discs. They seem to pick discs that, they throw and they really like or whatever, and that's good for them. But are terrible discs for like anybody below 800-foot distance can throw. And having a really accessible Tour Series disc, I mean, I think that's just going to print money for you and Discraft, and the Zone SS is a fantastic choice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's tough because like you want to pick. It's hard to like be like, you should buy this disc. It's really great. I don't throw it though, So they really want us to pick discs that we actually throw. So yeah, at least for me, it's like, well, I want one that it makes sense to do and that I actually throw that's also accessible. There's easier to find that overlap. But I feel like when, if you're Paul or you're Ricky, it's like you could sell anything. So like you may as well just pick the one that you throw the most.
That makes sense. We let couple of our group chats know that we were going to be speaking with you tonight, and everybody's extremely excited and jealous, as they should be. But they also had a couple. We got a couple questions from a couple people that they wanted us to ask. So we're going to jump into those before we get close to wrapping this very long and very appreciative interview with you. Question from Chris Azalins, head of the Ontario Disc Sports Association, and I think head of Can Disc, or up there in Can Disc or something like that. He wants to know, have you heard of and would you consider playing in the WIFDIF World Team Challenge? I believe this year it's in Lithuania. Last year it was in Perth, Australia, I think. And if not, why not?
I mean, I've heard of it in that I've heard the name, but I know very, very little about it. I mean, I guess if it didn't, interfere with the tour schedule, I'd be down.
You basically get to play for Team USA, which is kind of cool. Doesn't happen. Yeah. Not enough, I think, sports or events in disc golf have that sort of country, almost Olympics kind of feel. Yeah, maybe something to look into.
And it is for us here. Well, I won't speak for my co-host, but for me personally, it is one of my favorite events to watch as somebody that just loves, as we're getting into the Olympics coming up soon, I love international, like representing your country just brings out like an extra level of enthusiasm. At least I find. And getting together with a team, playing in these either doubles matches, singles matches, having to earn points for your team against other countries. It's sometimes a little hard to follow. I'll say there's not usually a ton of coverage with the WIFDIF stuff. But from what we do get to see, I always love watching it. And I've always thought that if USA just sent their best players top to finish, it would be an absolute wrap. And obviously you would be a part of that. So we here on Missed Mando would love to see Holyn Handley, even though it might be at the detriment of maybe some Team Canada results if we had to match up against you. And obviously that is the one time that I will adamantly root against you. Sorry for that one. Typical Canadian, got to apologize for it as well. But we would love to see you out there. So definitely something that you should look into. But moving on to the next question, we got one from Lynn coming in, and she has. You are very methodical with the dynamics of the sport and can really break down the mechanics of disc golf for tutorials, something that we talked about already, obviously. What sports, if any, did you play before disc golf, and did any of them help your approach to this sport and teaching?
Yeah, I played volleyball for 10 years, including college. So yeah, I think just mechanics wise, I think the hitting transfers really well to throwing forehand, just like already kind of have that really good mobility and like a really whippy arm. Just had to learn the forehand technique. The backhand footwork was actually really hard for me to learn because it's the exact opposite of volleyball footwork. So that I had to drill that quite a bit. But I think just like the kind of mindset of like, if I practice really hard, I'll get better. Really helped. Like I kind of came, preloaded with that kind of mindset and like understanding like how do you get better at a sport and how do you tailor like something like strength training to a sport. So kind of having that background certainly helps. And after I got out of college and like kind of in between college and finding disc golf, I did a little bit of some competitive powerlifting. Just because weight training's always been a huge passion of mine. So did a little bit of that as well.
Something about volleyball transitions really well to disc golf, because you're not the first person that we've had on here that has volleyball as an athletic background, including not to say that I'm in any level of some of the guests that we've had, but volleyball is my background as well. So something about volleyball and disc golf mending together, I love to see. So approve of the former volleyball background.
I think it's like I think the leverages that are good for volleyball are also good for disc golf. Like you tend to have long arms, long legs. And then you like already come preloaded with just some explosiveness, which I think is really good for both backhand and forehand. So if you've got patience for it, it transfers really well.
I think that explains some things as the sort of the higher level players that I've seen with volleyball background, I guess, were probably hitters, and a sort of stockier libero like myself. Maybe it doesn't transition quite as well, and that's why I'm where I'm at. That's what I'm going to tell myself in my head, at least. That's the story I'm going to tell myself.
Yeah, my sports were useless. I mean, I played like high school soccer, like varsity rugby, and like there's nothing about being hit in the head by a 300-pound man that's going to help me throw a forehand any better. So I just had to learn from scratch when I started. Anyway, another great question from Lynn. Shout out Lynn for sending us 2 great questions. How did designing a course change how you saw and viewed the courses on the Pro Tour? And do you think you want to design or build more courses in the future?
It certainly gave me an appreciation for how much work goes into a course. It's a lot, especially if you're one person doing it. Took me about a month this off season to do 7 T-pads. And that was with having like a skid steer to help, move gravel places. So it definitely gave me an appreciation for how much work goes into it. And even now, like if I'll catch players kind of complaining about, oh, why did they do the retaining wall this way? And why did they have to redo this thing? I'm like, do you realize like how much work that actually is? And it's actually not that big of a problem. So like maybe you shut up. So there's a little bit of that. And then just a little bit more patience overall, I think, for when there's like, maybe, these branches probably shouldn't be here. This feature, that feature is kind of an issue of just like having a little bit more patience for the work that goes behind like making those kinds of changes. Because obviously like you remove a branch, you can't put the branch back if you decide it's actually like necessary, that sort of thing. But then also when I see stuff that's like T-pads poorly done, I'm kind of like, okay, y'all know how to do T-pads. Like there's no excuse for this. There's some stuff where I'm like, all right, I know like this is bullshit. You should actually have this be better. And like some stuff with like just designing like, oh, this is the line. It's like, that's not a line. Like, I don't know, so I'll be maybe a little bit more critical of certain things. And then, I'd definitely be down to design more courses. I think especially, as FPO specific design is a topic, I think a lot of the people who do course design are or were like MPO players, and they're a little bit more familiar with that side of things. But having more women in the designing space, I think, would result in better FPO layouts, and subsequently just a better and more interesting FPO division to watch.
I certainly agree with that. And one quick little follow-up that I thought of in my head here, just putting on a course designer's cap. I'm curious, what would you change on hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley? Because that has turned into one of the most infamous holes in disc golf for the scores that it racks up every single year. And we've talked to a few different players on the podcast of things that they think that they could do differently on that hole to make it a little bit better. So I'm curious your perspective on that.
Oh yeah, I remember that hole. It's funny, they made that hole so like hard, not hard, but so punishing that it didn't matter. Because I think I took a 9 on that hole and still won the tournament. And then like Tristan took like a big number both days and still got
11 or 13 or something like that.
Yeah, so like it didn't actually matter. And like that's the kind of thing with like trying to build in scoring separation is you can't like make it too, if you make it too punishing, you don't get scoring separation. Everyone just gets a bad score. If you make it not punishing enough, everyone just gets a pretty good score. Honestly, I think the easiest thing to do is just like the OB line was at the base of those stairs. I think just put it at the, like, cause you go up the stairs and then there's maybe like 10 feet of space before you go down. I think you just, on the other side of that 10 feet of space, you put the OB line there. So if you do go OB, you have a much easier shot. You're not having to try to do this like awkward kind of shot that it was calling for. Because I remember practicing that hole and it was like kind of windy. And thinking like there's women who can't, if there's a headwind coming down here, there's women in the field this week who just won't finish the course. And like we told them that and they had to change. That's when they last second changed the rule that you get like 3 attempts before you automatically advance, which is, it's like super awkward kind of rule to have to do. Which, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think as a course designer, if you're like kind of rubbing your hands together, like, oh, I'm going to get them with this one. It's like, you should maybe think twice about that. Because like the point isn't to like ruin someone's day. The point is good, like interesting golf to watch and good scoring separation. And that sometimes means, something that's going to like get somebody, but that shouldn't be like at the forefront of your brain, which obviously I'm not in the brain of the person who designed that hole. So I'm not to make assumptions here, but yeah, that's one that is like, I think just that little tweak of like moving the OB line to the top and giving just a very straightforward shot, like you're still going to have people who end up throwing multiple times, but at least it's a shot that like you have multiple options. Like you can just kind of rip a drive straight. Like you're not having to play with all of these like weird angles that some of the FPO field just doesn't really have.
Yeah, I think a single hole averaging, I think, over 3 strokes over par in an entire field is definitely telling. And there are plenty of, hard holes out there, but I don't think I've seen one that quite looked like it broke so many people. Like, I mean, I think it was Kristen that at one round was clearly emotional coming off of that hole after taking a really big score. I think that happened with some other people as well. So and it seems like it's a good course all in all too. And I do like that sort of last little tunnel to the basket. Like the hole sets up like just kind of geographically sets up well. And I think that's a great idea of moving the OB line up on top of those stairs there. So wasn't planning on asking about that, but for some reason Sprinkle Valley just popped into my head right at the end there. But Holly, we have taken up a lot of your time. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us so much of your time. Before we let you go, we want to hit you with a few lightning round questions that we ask all of our new guests. Just some quick answers, whatever comes to your mind first. Some real easy ones here, and I'll give you a big softball to start. What's your favorite course?
Ooh, it depends on the day, but I'm going to say Croco.
How can you go wrong?
Hard to go wrong.
What is the hardest course you've ever played?
Ooh. It's probably Northwood, honestly. That's at least on tour. That's the hardest one.
Yeah, it'll shock you to learn that we've heard that before.
Yeah, without a doubt, the most consistent answer to that question.
The monster in Tampere is up there as well.
Yeah, I think we've gotten that once or twice too, if memory serves. And if you had one sport to watch or play other than disc golf, what are you choosing?
Probably Formula One.
Oh, let's go. Who's your team / driver?
Who's your team?
Or driver?
I'm pretty basic. I like Max Verstappen. Mostly because of the solo, honestly, but also he's very cool. So
It's I've started to get into F1 over the last couple of years and started off as a bit of a Max hater. Just, you come into a sport and somebody's been dominant for that long, you kind of want to go an opposite route. But this season, something about Max has really started to make me like him, which as a kind of, I tell myself I'm a Lando Norris fan, which kind of hurts me to kind of like Max a little bit. But I think like first time we've had F1. Yes, there are a lot. I think my overall favorite's Carlos Sainz. He just seems so fun and like just such a awesome dude. So I think it's the first time we've had F1 answer to that question. So love to see that. Moving on to the next one that we got here for you, Holyn. What song makes you instantly turn the volume up to max?
Ooh, there's a lot of songs, but lately I'll go Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters.
Nice.
Nice, Grace. You are now a road trip queen, being on tour for multiple years. What is your favorite place to stop for food on a road trip? You drive along, you see the sign in the distance. What do you open? It says.
And we have such a big trailer, I pretty much exclusively go to truck stops, but a truck stop that has a Subway is like peak.
Fresh.
Great. I mean, it's either that or like a McDonald's. So I'm going. At least I can get like a little bit of fiber if I get a sandwich.
Go to Subway order.
It's pretty basic, like turkey and cheese, and then maybe some jalapeno kettle chips.
Hey, dude, nothing wrong with turkey and cheese. Heck yeah. Next lightning round question: what movie never gets sold no matter how many times you've seen it?
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It's just so hard to beat. So
Theatrical or extended cut?
Extended.
Yeah, let's take it. All right. I was going to say, this is a really important question.
I am actually pro theatrical cut. I don't need an hour-long council meeting. I'm an urban planner. I have enough of those in my day job.
We love the middle management orifice that has always talked to the Cyberman about the output at the factory for hours on end. Yeah.
We appreciate your opinion here, Sean, but unfortunately it is wrong. It's just flat out wrong. I don't know if it was like a global thing, but I know at least here locally recently they had all 3 Lord of the Rings extended editions playing in theaters, a select amount of theaters, and I missed my chance to go. So hopefully that comes back around again, because although then again, I don't know if I'd be able to make it through the whole extended cut in a movie theater without having to get up 6 different times to use the bathroom.
And I'll let you pause.
Oh no, I don't think there's going to be an intermission.
You go during
at the movie theater. That's true. There we go. Now we're thinking. Little brainstorming session going on here. Holyn, last question that we've got for you, and it's the most important of the lightning round. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think I would go with super strength. Pretty basic, but I am a lifter at heart. I'm a gym bro at heart.
It's going to say the powerlifting background coming out there.
And you know what? Strength translates to a lot of things. If sprinters, also pretty strong. You want to be able to jump pretty high, helps do pretty strong. So you're kind of getting like a multi-power deal here, I think, if you go with strength.
And
that's true. And I will go ahead.
I was gonna say it's definitely not basic. Oh my God, Robbie, should we talk over each other 3 more times? I was gonna say it's not basic because no one has said it. No one has answered that.
Yeah, go.
Never.
Yeah, I think that actually might be the most unique answers, like the most amount of first-time answers that we've got in one lightning round before. So keeping us on our toes, Holyn. Absolutely love it. But with that is the end of the lightning round. And Holyn, thank you so much once again for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast. A real pinch me moment for us as a small podcast from Canada talking about disc golf. To have the FPO Player of the Year on here is pretty incredible. But before we do let you go, do you have any shout outs that you would like to give, or any final comments? Let people know how they can support you out on tour during the season, anything like that. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, I mean the best place for me is follow me on Instagram. That's Halls_17. HOLLS_17. If you want to buy my discs, there's teamdiscrap.com or flightfactorydiscs.com. I'm on Whatnot as well. I do those periodically. Those are always a fun time. If you're in any of the towns where we're having a pro tour event, be on the lookout for one of my clinics with Ella. If you are a woman or know a woman, we allow supportive boyfriends and husbands to come as well. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's where you find me.
Well, Holyn, thank you so much once again for joining us. We have been big supporters of you here on the podcast. Actually, kind of weird little quick tangent. Of all the things, all of your accomplishments, number one is without a doubt helping me win our picks, our tournament picks, season-long race 2 years ago, when it was a lot of, basically it got around to me and Sean was already typing in Holyn Handley under Robbie's picks, because I was picking you so often, and you helped me take down the title over my fellow podcast co-host. So I am forever grateful to you for that. But of course, big fans of you here, and good luck with everything going on in the 2026 season, and hopefully we can get you on again.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always happy to talk discs.
And hopefully, I know Sean and Galen definitely, with how thick they were putting it on earlier, hopefully we'll see you in Toronto sometime soon, and we can show you around a bit, our neck of the woods.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again, Holyn, and we will be right back here on Missed Mando. Welcome back to Missed Mando. Thank you so much once again to Holyn Handley for coming on and joining us. Absolutely insane to me. I mean, we are still very much a small niche podcast, being a Ontario-focused disc golf pod. But even in where we've grown to, I would never have expected to have a current reigning player of the year come on here for an interview. So I'm still kind of in that pinch me stage right now, and an incredible interview with her as well. So thank you so much once again to Holyn for coming on. And we are going to move on now to some Ontario news, get back in our neck of the woods. No general news to speak of for this episode, but registrations are just getting busier and busier and busier as we get closer to the season. So Shawnee G, let's throw it on over to you.
Right now, the hottest website in Ontario is the Disc Golf Scene listing for Ontario events. There are so many. It's been amazing watching, like, every day more and more events pop up that you got to get on there. You got to follow them so you do not miss the registration. But first, Missed Mando Mayhem 5, we have canceled it, more likely postponed it. The weather is just going to be too bad. The snow is too deep. Galen might get lost in the snow drifts. It's not going to be worth it. It won't be fun for everybody. So we're going to cancel that one, and we'll let you know when we reschedule it. But there are other events that you can sign up for very soon or right now. General registration is opening on February 9th for this year's King's Forest Open, which will be held on March 7th and 8th. Early bird sponsor registration opens on February 7th, and this thing will sell out, so you want to get in there quick and maybe do that sponsor registration. Next, general registration is opening on February 16th for this year's Toronto Open, which will be held on March 14th and 15th. Early hole sponsorship spots registration starts for that February 13th. Pros and Advanced and MA 4050 they're going to be playing over at Scarlett Woods on the 15th, and the rest of the AM divisions are going to be playing the expanded 18-hole tournament layout at Dentonia, which was a lot of fun last year. Strong recommend there. If you're out in the Brockville area, general registration opens for the Maitland Woods Pancake Breakfast C tier on February 6th for the event that's going down on March 7th. Registration opens on February 6th for the Dubs Gone Wild doubles event out at Wild Country on April 11th. There are still a few spots left right now for the Stones Throw Spring Open out at Stones Throw on April 18th. That's a fantastic event. One of Robbie's favorite events of the year. You should definitely go there so you can beat him. General registration opens on February 14th for the Blackfly Legends and February 16th for the Blackfly Fling going down up at Tommy Thompson in South River on May 14th and May 16th, 17th, respectively. Super fun event, great tournament put on. I'm not sure what year it's on now, but it's been going on for a while. It's a fantastic event. Registration opens on February 17th for a spring thing hosted by Queer Disc Golf at Haute Goat. That's going down May 30th and 31st. And then Canadian Nationals is going down out in Grand Prairie, Alberta. That's happening July 24th, 25th, and 26th. Whole sponsorship advanced registration is open now. They're doing the rest of the application applications by tiers. The second tier of registration opens February 15th. That's just for pros rated 970 and above. So no one on this podcast. And then all female divisions and all junior divisions. Also, no one on this podcast. There are 2 other registration dates on February 22nd and March 1st, depending on your rating and your division. So anyway, just jump on over to Disc Golf Scene so you know when to sign up. Hit that follow. Nationals is going to be fantastic. Next week, we're going to have the TD of Nationals on to give us a preview of what you can expect out there in Alberta. But that seems like a lot, but there are a lot more coming. These are just the ones that are basically opening in the next 2 weeks. It is coming fast and furious. Tournament season is starting. It is so fantastic. Jump on over to Disc Golf Scene and make sure you hit the follow on those events that you want to play so you do not miss registration, because you will miss it.
Yep, absolutely. And where that came in true form helped me out by clicking that little follow button. It helped me out recently with a nice little reminder that Blueberry Brawl registration was opening up, which I'll give a quick little shout out to, because registration is currently open. It opened the other day. It's sold out in about a minute and a half. So if you're listening to this right now, there is a wait list. You can jump on that wait list if you would like. It is probably, I think it was already like 10 plus last I looked. It's probably gotten to even more than that now. So a little shout out to the Blueberry Brawl crew, who continue every year to host one of the most quick selling out tournaments of the entire calendar. And also, just as a little kind of, not rebuttal isn't the right word, just a response to Sean's comments about beating me out at Stone's Throw. It is one of my favorites. Absolutely. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think I've played the last, they host the spring and fall open every year. I've played the last 6, I believe, and I think I have 4 second place finishes and 0 wins. So yeah, there's a good chance you could come out there and beat me. I'll finish second, and someone listening to this will finish first. That's just how it goes for me at Stone's Throw. But definitely keep your eye out on registration. Things are going to continue to evolve quickly as more and more tournaments get added. I mean, there's more added today that I didn't notice until it was literally brought up by Sean in registration. So keep your eye on that, and keep tuning in to us here at Missed Mando. We will continue to keep everybody updated on registration coming up for Ontario events. Moving on now to a little bit of more general disc golf news. Shawnee G, I'll throw it back over to you for this one, as I see this was added by you, and I don't really know what this is yet.
So this popped up on my radar just today. We're recording this on Tuesday, and it looks really interesting. If you recall, I think a couple years ago, someone at the PDGA made a little documentary about the Holy Shot. Had a little bit about the history of disc golf and the shot and whatever. And it was really well made. It was really great. You can watch it on the Disc Golf Network, I believe, and maybe on YouTube as well. I'm not sure. But one of the guys who made that movie has now made steadyhistory.com. It's a history of disc golf initiative. And it'll be, I think, a series of like 3 short documentaries that they're looking to make, and they've released the first one. The first one is called No Girls Allowed, and it's a 1-hour movie about the history of women's disc golf. The trailer is up on their website on steadyhistory.com, and it's up on YouTube as well. It looks amazing. It basically features, like, the trailer is a reading of a letter from somebody at Whammo who made the original Frisbee. And basically them reciting why they will not set up a female division in disc golf. It's just like shocking that they wrote it out. And basically it's like, this is not a distance event. And so we're not going to start one. And that's basically, and then over archival footage and shots of women playing disc golf. And I've already bought a copy. You can buy a copy of it to watch for $4 US. And you can sign up for like the founders package for like $100, and that gets you, supports the project. It gets you access to all 3 movies that they're eventually going to make, whatever. It looks like a really high quality production, and I think I'm looking forward to watching it. I haven't watched it yet, but it looks great.
Definitely something I'm going to be keeping my eye on to check out when that does fully release. Super interesting. Anything about, there's one thing that I've learned in doing this podcast is that trying to find historical anything to do with disc golf can be pretty challenging a lot of the time. So the more sort of like, documentaries and things that come out exploring the history of this sport, I am just absolutely fascinated by. Just learning, how, when you think about it, the PDGA isn't, what was it, 1974, 75, something like that was when the PDGA was founded. It's really, this sport has not been around that long. It's still a very young sport. And learning how we've got from where it started to where we are now, incredibly intriguing. So really looking forward to that. Galen, anything you want to add?
Just that I'm incredibly excited too. Yeah, if first I'm hearing about it also. I've opened the trailer in a new tab to watch as soon as we're done recording this episode, and excited to check out the trailer and then later the movie. Yeah.
Yep, I will check out the trailer when we are done recording this as well. And we'll keep an eye out on that.
Oh, and I think,
moving on.
I think the filmmaker is on Smashbox tonight. So by the time our episode releases, you may have heard more about it. If you subscribe to Smashbox and you hear that. And then I think one of the other women involved in the project is, I think she said she's also going to be on Smashbox. Give me a sec here. I'm just finding the name.
We've gotten really good at the slow talk while we research something in the background. We've gotten really good at that.
Cheryl Newland, PDGA number 76.
Yo.
2-digit. I think she's going to be on Smashbox with the director as well. Yeah.
Nice. I will definitely check out that as well. Shout out to the Disc Golf Podcast OGs over at Smashbox. Still going strong. Gotta love it. All right. Well, we are gonna move on. We got a tournament recap? What? We're in the middle of winter here in Canada, and we've got a tournament recap for something local? Absolutely we do. And we had a Missed Mando correspondent on scene playing in the event. So, Galen, let's throw it on over to you.
Yes, sir. The Scarlett Woods Open. And January 21st to 28th, those of you that weren't paying attention or don't live in the area, brought 55 centimeters of snow to Toronto, including a record-breaking 46 centimeters on January 25th. So, of course, 51 brave souls, yours truly included, decided that January 31st would be the perfect day for a disc golf tournament and brave the conditions for the 2026 Scarlett Woods Open. For those of you keeping track at home, that is more than 1 centimeter of snow per disc golfer on the course that day. Believe it or not. The Scarlett Woods Open, of course, used color divisions rather than female, mixed, and age protected. So the top division on offer was the gold division, where 3 worthy competitors fought it out. It's James Atkinson, Luke Johnson, and Daryl Nantis. And speaking from experience, because I was there too, as we alluded to, that course played tough. The snow was up to most players' shins, knees, or waist, or shoulders, depending on who you ask, for one vertically challenged Miss Mando co-host who will remain nameless. And there were barely any pathways beaten in along the course too. So you were really, every step was like shin or knee deep in this snow. It was absolutely nuts. It was a slog for everyone, and the scores and round ratings reflected that. It's the only time I've ever had a plus 17 round rated well into the 920s. It was like the PDGA knew that we were having a tough time that day. Thank goodness. Round 1, there were a total of just 4 birdies carded by the entire gold division. And I actually thought it was interesting. There were actually 6 double and triple bogeys carded by the division that same round. And I was wondering earlier how many tournaments all year where we're going to see pros taking more double bogeys than birdies. And I'm going to guess it's not that many. But if it ever happens again, I'll be paying attention. After round 1, it was Daryl in the lead with a 993 rated plus 7, just 2 strokes ahead of James Atkinson. And in a shortened round 2, to account for a lack of daylight because the sun was setting very quickly and we had to sort of think on our feet and pivot to a 13-hole round, it was James who turned the jets on, parring 5 out of the first 8 holes and carding birdies on the other 3 to jump to a 2-stroke lead over Daryl, and from there they traded shots, carding matching scores on 5 out of the final 6 holes. But it was James's work early on that brought him home as he sailed to a 4-stroke overall victory with a 1029 rated -2. And not only that, but he also saved my ass with an extra pair of socks after I fell through the ice into some water before the first round, soaking all of my gear. So shout out and congratulations to James. Way to go, buddy. Robbie or Sean, any thoughts to add? Perhaps Sean, to you first.
It's not surprising there were 0 aces. I mean, in the best conditions, aces at Scarlett Woods are pretty thin on the ground, pretty tough to get. Just getting birdies is a huge respect. That might as well be an ace in those conditions. Big respect to all you crazy people who went out and played in those conditions. I sat at home. It was very warm. And no, but huge respect. Well done, Ezra, for putting on such an insane event. I'm curious if he does it again next year. But yeah, well done, everyone.
Yeah, huge shout out to anybody that went out and played. I will say, in years previous, if this event was hosted at the same time, it wouldn't have been nearly as bad for snow levels. Being somebody that lives a little bit outside of Toronto, an hour outside of Toronto in Kitchener, usually heading towards the city is what I'll do if I want to play around and maybe see a little bit of grass out at Scarlett Woods. There's usually only a little dusting. This winter has been way different and has been barrels and barrels of snow absolutely everywhere. I don't know what unit of measurement a barrel is for snow, but we're just going to go with it. Barrels and barrels of snow. And yeah, I think what tournaments need to start doing is, winter tournaments, when there's snow, is they need to put out kind of like a snow warning beforehand on the amount of gallons that the snow is. So if we're at a half gallon, then it's going to be up to your shins for most people. A full gallon is waist height for most people. So I think we're going to have to introduce this new format, but I'll let somebody else do the legwork on that. But yeah, I don't really have much else to add. Scarlett Woods, I haven't I can't even remember if I played Scarlet Woods last year. I might have missed it last winter, but a really fun winter course, albeit extremely challenging, as we've talked about, especially when you get into these conditions. So shout out to Galen, James, everybody that went out there and was braving the conditions. Some people just, you get an opportunity for a rated round, and some people just will go through hell for it. Yeah, Exhibit A right on our screen. Galen Naidu Harris.
Now,
But,
I've got to say, go ahead. We've been joking about throughout about how high up on me the snow was, and I was just thinking about it. We actually can very easily do the math. So there were 55 centimeters of snow that fell on the course in the week before it started. I, at 5'7", am 170 centimeters. We quite literally had 1/3 of a gallon in snow on the course. That's kind of crazy. I don't know if I'm ever going to play in that much snow again. If I am, God better hope that James Atkinson will be there with a pair of socks for me again, because I might need them.
Note to James, always bring extra socks for Galen, not for yourself. Bring them for Galen, because he's going to fall into a creek somehow. But moving on now, we are going to get into our 2025 Missed Mando Fantasy Draft results, season results. For those that remember, at the start of the 2025 season, we drafted fantasy teams amongst us. We all had 10 players, 6 MPO and 4 FPO. And I didn't do a great job of keeping track of this through the season, so I had to go through and catch up on like the last 12 tournaments of the season that I had missed, and go through each player individually and put in their results. But I do have the entire spreadsheet filled out, and so just as a reminder, we did a bit of a unique scoring system. We did it was 5 points for a win, 3 points for a podium, 1 point for a top 10 finished, and then 0 points outside of the top 10, and -1 point if it was an MPO player outside of the top 32 or FPO player outside of the top 20, which was the Pro Tour cutoff line. So if you were outside of that in an individual tournament, you got negative points. And just as a little reminder for our teams, Shawnee G had on MPO, he had Ricky Wysocki, Isaac Robinson, Ezra Robinson, Joey Buckets, Deuce Gossage, Bradley Williams, and then on FPO, Holyn Handley, Silva Saarinen, Ella Hansen, and Raven Klein. Galen on the MPO side had Gannon Burr, Nicholas Antala, Matt O, Matty O, that was weird. Matt Oram or Matty O, little combo there. James Proctor, Joel Freeman, Ezra Aderold, and then an FPO had Owen Scoggins, Evelina Salonen, Natalie Ryan, and Eliezra Midling. And for myself, I had in MPO Calvin Heimberg, Chris Dickerson, Anthony Barella, Kyle Klein, Paul Macbeth, Kevin Jones. And over on the FPO side, I had Kristen Lott, Missy Gannon, Rebecca Cox, and Katrina Allen. All right. Let's, how do we want to do this? I guess we'll just go right into the results, and then we can kind of break down some player stuff and look at that a little bit more in depth as we go along. So I think the last time we talked about this, I gave a bit of a spoiler on the points totals. This was a 2-person race, essentially, and we'll start with our 3rd place finisher, and that is none other than our own Galen Naidu Harris, finishing in 3rd place with 110 total points. And just to put into perspective, of that 110 total points that Galen had, 56 of them came from Gannon Burr. Half of his points coming from one player entirely. Huge season for Gannon, not surprisingly at all. Galen's second top performer was his number 1 FPO player, Owen Scoggins, who added an additional 35 points for him. Evelina had 20 points for him as well, and then it kind of goes down pretty hard after that. Having let's see, we've got Ezra Aderhold is the next highest scoring on Galen's team with 3. Bit of a drop off. And then we get entirely negatives, unfortunately, for Galen on the rest of his squad. Matteo, -6. James Proctor, -7. Joel Freeman, -2. And Natalie Ryan, -1. Eliezer Midling, -10. So an unfortunate stacking of negative points there for Galen. But he did have the overall #1 points getter in Gannon Burr. So, Galen, let's throw it over to you real quick and get your assessment on your team.
Well, that's awesome. I think the only metric that matters clearly is the highest performing individual player. And so I appreciate that you've tried to structure this in a way where it like makes you and Sean look better or whatever. But I know in my heart who the real champion was this year. Really appreciate the shout out of you saying it was a 2-horse race for second place, just segregating things right off the hop. Couldn't have gone better. Excited for this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was tracking this like through the entire season, event by event, so I could see like, did you start off good and then everybody sort of dropped off towards the end, or was it a middle stretch where you were losing a lot of points? I'd like to break that down a little more, but that's more effort than I would like to give at this point towards this one. Yeah, I mean, Gannon Burr, 56 points, the most of any player, just absolutely insane. I'll do a quick little look-see. 1, 2, 3. Oh boy, this is gonna hurt my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6. Yeah, 6 events. And actually some of these, so it's 7, but 2 of them were women's only events. So obviously Gannon wasn't going to get you points at those, being Throw Pink and US WDGC. So only 5 events that Gannon could have got points for you where he missed points. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane from Gannon. I think if I went through, he probably had the most 5 points for wins as well. Well, obviously he had the most wins on the Pro Tour. That was just kind of obvious, but a solid showing, Galen, over 100 points. Hopefully you'll do a little bit better in 2026. Now, with that being said, I'll give the point totals for Sean and I. One of them 160 and one of them 169. Only a 9-point difference at the top. And without further ado, finishing in second place with 160 points from their team, none other than Sean Galbraith. Second place finish. That, of course, leaves me as #1 with 169 points. Now, looking at Sean and I, it's very interesting the difference in spread. Sean had so I also broke this down in just MPO and FPO points. And looking back at Galen had 66 from his MPO players, 44 from his FPO players. Sean had 53 from his MPO, so actually less than Galen, but had 107 points from his FPO players. By far the most of any individual category, FPO or MPO for either of us. The next highest being 92 MPO points that I had for myself. So my MPO team came up huge and really helped me with those extra 9 points over Sean. But Sean, 107 total from FPO, coming from 49 points from Holyn Handley and 47 points from Silva Saarinen, 21 points from Ella Hansen, and actually had -10 points from Raven Klein. Still had by far the most points in any single category with your FPO and had -10 in there, which also, unfortunately, are the 10 points that you would have needed to beat me in this competition. But looking forward, where also things went a little bit awry for Shawnee G, just not getting the real MPO firepower that he need. 25 points from Ricky, 24 from Isaac, which is solid. 11 from Ezra Robinson, and then -6 from Joey Buckets, 6 from Goose, and -7 from Bradley Williams. So the negatives bringing them down a little bit. Shawnee G, before I get into my team, let's throw it over to you and hear some of your thoughts from your squad.
Yeah, Joey Buckets and Bradley Williams definitely held me back, but friend of the show, Holyn Handley, really
It's pretty
really
crazy to be able to say now.
top-notch pick there. And Silva Saarinen, I picked her 9th. Really, really strong pick, deep in a little bit deep into that. My strategy of trying to maximize. We did the snake draft, and my strategy of getting some good FPO early, I think, paid off for the most part in the end. I just wanted to shout out Joel Freeman, who I think he barely played at all last year, and Galen picked him. I think he finished 129th on tour. Not the best pick, and I believe we tried to talk him out of that pick, and he went with him anyway. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, Sean. You should know that by now.
It's true. I think the -2 points from Joel Freeman may have just been finishing outside of the top 32 in 2 events, and that's all he did on the Pro Tour this year. Because he basically just didn't play any tour events this year. He played a bunch of A tiers, and I think probably stuff more local to him. But we don't count that stuff. It's only Pro Tour and majors.
Galen had 3 players who barely played. Galen had 3 players who barely played: Natalie Ryan, James Proctor, and Joel Freeman, which probably didn't help his numbers.
No, I would say absolutely not. And just back to Shawnee G's team, the 49 from Holyn and 47 from Silva were the second and third most points of any single player in this draft, which means, of course, that I had the 4th highest points getter. We'll get to that. So my team, of course. Oh, we already went through the teams. I don't need to do that again. But my highest point getter was the 4th highest point getter, and that was Missy Gannon, getting me a nice 40 points, really helping me out there. I had 92 points from my MPO, 77 from my FPO. So not the highest in any, I did have the most MPO, but a more balanced between my MPO and FPO definitely helped me out here. I had 31 points from Calvin Heimberg, 3 from Chris Dickerson, 25 from Anthony Barella, 16 from Kyle Klein, 26 from Paul Macbeth, -9 from Kevin Jones, which was my only negative of any player on my team, 35 from Kristen Latt, which is insane that I still had.
Consider she played 2/3 of a season.
Yeah, she played 2/3 of a season and had a down year based on her expectations, and still came up big for me. If she missed any more of the season, essentially, I would have been in big trouble with only 9 points between Sean and myself. And then 40 from Missy, 0 from Rebecca Cox, and 2 points from Katrina Allen to give me that 109 total. So really balanced on my end there. Really, really happy with only having basically the big difference was just my team having only 1 player in the negatives, whereas both of you guys had multiple in that category. Only having Kevin Jones on my team definitely, only having Kevin Jones in the negatives definitely helped me out there. So big one there, and a big win. I won our year-long tournament picks in 2024. I won our fantasy team in 2025. It's just the Robbie show. I don't know what to tell you. I know ball. I know ball, man. Any other thoughts on you guys
that keep coming in second at Stone's Throw?
Yeah,
really auspicious.
My disc golf game isn't always on top of things, but my fantasy game is in lock. In lock. Anything else from you guys on our 2025 fantasy teams?
No, but I got to say, I am looking forward to our next episode when we draft our 2026 team.
Yeah. The season is quickly approaching, and time to get back into draft mode. I'm gonna start making some notes and looking through stats and figuring out who to draft. I think there is going to be a fairly obvious number one pick this year.
And a fairly obvious non-number 2 pick. No one's picking Kristen.
Oh, yes. Yeah, last year it was
maybe Galen picks Kristen.
Well, I was going to say...
the teams like players that don't play.
Yeah, I'm going to be preparing my list of players with the shortest possible tour schedules in order to avoid negative point scores, boys.
Yeah.
You're playing checkers, I'm playing 4D chess.
Galen's just going to have zeros across the board. This is no negatives, but no points. Just zeros everywhere. Last year was a big debate on who to take with the number one overall pick, Gannon Burr or Kristen Lott. And I believe it was Galen that had the number one overall pick and went with Gannon. I'm pretty sure. And then Kristen would have went, and then I took Kristen second. Do you remember what your first 2 picks, Sean, were?
Yeah, so I have them up in front of me. I have all of our players. It was Gannon Burr first, Kristen Lott second. Ricky Wysocki was my first pick, and then I went Holyn. And then you had Gannon, Missy Gannon. Galen picked Own, then Evelina. Anyway, yeah, it was.
So without a doubt, the biggest value pick in the entire draft was Silva Saarinen.
I mean, she went ninth
and got the third most points of any player behind only Gannon and Holyn, which is pretty, and only 2 points behind Holyn too. So was right in neck and neck with Holyn, and they were both. It was 56 for Gannon, 49 for Holyn, 47 for Silva. So some
going to bring some fierce competition to pick up those players this year.
Yep. Definitely. What do you guys think of the format that we use? I think it went pretty well. I don't know if there really needs any tweaking to it.
So an alternative format that I used, it requires almost no math and is extremely easy. Basically, all I did was your final rank in the Pro Tour is a point. So Gannon got 1 point. Kristen got 2 points. Ricky got 3 points. Holyn got 1 point, and just lowest score wins. And it worked out the same order. So Galen was destroyed with 339 points, of which 129 were Joel Freeman. Robbie came in first with 112 points, and I came in second with 129 points. So basically, my total score was Joel Freeman, equivalent to Joel Freeman. So I mean, this took me 10 minutes to do, and it did at the end of the season. It's very easy. So if you want, we can just do it this way.
I am totally fine with that. It means that I don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of time setting up a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I did I've got like the side category column of all the tournaments, and then up the top columns, all the players' names. I put inputs so that when I just put in the number, it automatically added everything. It took me forever to build that spreadsheet. Yes, exactly.
We'll do it my way. Let it 1 point for every spot on the Pro Tour list at the end.
Crumple up the spreadsheet, throw it in the garbage. Let's do it Sean's way. Just look at one link at the end of the season, and it takes us 5 minutes.
I'll crumple up my my monitor that the spreadsheet is on right now, and throw it away. And like you said, Sean, it didn't change how the results would have broken down. It still would have been the same finishing spot. The only thing that would really change big is that you would get hit a lot harder if, like, for instance, Galen with Joel Freeman. If you have somebody that just misses the whole Pro Tour season and finishes 170 something, that's going to take you out of the running basically instantly.
So what we can do is, what I would say, so I think we'll do the 10 players again, 6 MPO, 4 FPO, including 2 wild cards, 1 from each division. I like that. But either we can set a max limit. So like max of 80 points. So if you get a player who is like Joel Freeman, 129, you're only dinged for 80.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
Or we can do a mid-season trade, mid-season redraft of your worst player. You can drop him and pick the best pick from whoever's available.
I also
feel
like
like
that.
that would be more fun. I like anything that creates a little bit of extra drama and gives us a little more content for the internet machine. So I think both ideas are like equally valid, but I think the second one is maybe a little bit more dramatic. So that gets my vote.
And I would say you don't get penalized for their first half of the season. So you just drop them entirely, and the person you pick up, you get their points for the season.
Dig it.
Yeah, it'll basically be your roster at the end of the season is what is going to be judged on for points. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm in.
We'll figure out which tournament we're going to do that, ahead of which tournament we'll do that switch. And we'll talk about it next week on the show or next episode.
We will do our full draft next episode. Hopefully, if we can get all three of us here. We do need all of us to do that, but definitely will be coming up soon, and very much looking forward to that. It's almost time, fellas. The Pro Tour season is right around the corner. We are getting very close. Tournament season here in Ontario is going to be coming up real soon. Registrations are going crazy. So stay tuned in here on Missed Mando. We will keep you updated on everything you need to know in the disc golf world. But until our next episode, that is going to do it for us here on Missed Mando. I'm still pinch me that we just had Holyn Handley on the show. Absolutely amazing interview. Thank you once again to Holyn for coming on and joining us. And that is going to do it for us here on Missed Mando. For Sean Galbraith and Galen Naidu Harris, I am Robbie Holden, and we will see ya on the course.